I am a very, very lucky man today because I have the honor and privilege of introducing to you, the listening audience, in my what is, in my opinion, my favorite, the greatest creative team of all time, the unstoppable force in comics. I am referring to two men who have become a part of one of the biggest bombshell announcements in comics, which of course is the beginning of Ghost Machine. I am speaking to two legends of the business, Geoff Johns, who we knew we would get today, and the special guest, because Jeff's not a guest anymore, he's family. The very, very special guest, Gary Frank.
Oh, thanks, Sean.
Hello.
That was such a nice introduction. I almost feel like we should stop now.
It was too nice, yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. Really appreciate that. And happy to be back. I love you guys. I know I love talking comics. I love that you guys go deep into like the craft and the stories and all that and the character stuff. And that's what Gary and I do. So it's a pleasure to be here with him.
Well, we're going to go very deep into everything that you guys are doing now with Ghost Machine, because, I mean, my goodness, this announcement took the comics industry by storm, and it's been such an exciting thing to watch unfold. You know, we're all the rest of the pals, like, we are too young to remember the Image boom and what that was and what that felt like when those creators jumped ship, but we're getting to live it now with you guys and the rest of Ghost Machine. So it's incredibly exciting. I know that the audience, the listening audience who are live with us now, have been so excited for this, and they did not know that Gary would be here today. So there's a lot of excitement in the chat right now. If you guys that are listening want to get questions asked and answered, you can drop a super chat. You can, if you're a patron, if you're a channel member, you guys hang on tight. We will get to all of that. I'm going to get the spiel out there now so that I don't have to worry about it, and we can just dive in with these two wonderful gentlemen. So here we go. If you want to support your boys, patreon.com/thecomicspals is the absolute best way to do that. We are always giving you bang for your buck. We have a bunch of great content on offer on our Patreon. We love you guys that support us over there. We really, really appreciate you. And I want to show that support right now and that appreciation by thanking Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, the Hound of Justice Atomic Hound, Starcross Catherine Stars, the Night Stalker Harris Dajinski, Brian Demolisher Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Joel Justice, Jalen the Sanguine Sorcerer, Marvelous Mike and Mackenzie, Marley Manastorm, Slow Flow Dameron, Amin Almighty Perez, and Pete Collins. Pete, don't worry, I didn't forget about you. We just don't have the time to do your origin story today, but we will get to it. Thank you so much. YouTube.com/thecomicspals, where you can join our channel membership. Just click the join button. That helps us out a lot. You get green names in the chat. You can share your emojis with the people and let them know you're a fan of what we do here. I'll leave it there. You guys know the rest. Thank you so much.
I gotta say, those names are awesome. They sound like Fortnite characters to me. That's so great. Like, where do those all come from? Love it.
They
like
came
that,
from
like
my
that
brain.
I like that the PS was Pete Collins, like a regular name, but all the other ones are like Fortnite.
Yeah, I'm on the docket to give Pete a name next week, so.
I think that might be me.
A name today, like a nickname today.
You want one?
Yeah, we should brainstorm Pete Collins' nickname today.
Oh, we can definitely do.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're gonna have fun today.
We got to figure out what his favorite characters are, and like we'll create some cool handle.
Well, Pete is actually an incredible artist.
Oh, cool. He's
a working artist. He's on the Bardic Verses, and we've got a question that's going to come from him for you a little bit later, actually.
Oh,
so,
cool.
maybe when we get to that, we can decide his nickname live on the show. All right. So I want to start with a question for both of you, because you have a working relationship that spans, I mean, at this point, almost 20 years. And that's sort of rare these days in comics, I feel like. So what is it about the dynamic and the collaboration that makes you guys keep coming back to each other? I mean, now you're locked in with each other. You guys are, you've made it official. So what is it about the relationship and collaboration that you keep coming back to?
Shall I go?
Yeah, I'll let Gary start. I'll let Gary start for once.
Okay. Um, well, like first few years we didn't really kind of know each other, so it was kind of based on the work thing. We both, I think, like to do the same stuff. We both have the same kind of things that we enjoy doing with comics. We don't necessarily get massively excited with just the fireworks and the explosions and stuff. We like the character stuff, and we like the kind of the building of the the heart of the characters and making them feel like real people and kind of taking people on an emotional journey. And I think sometimes that gets a little lost with some comics. And I think we kind of early on we clicked and we realized that was the thing that we both like doing, and the two things just kind of meshed. The two stars just meshed.
Yeah, I'd say like one of the I was always a huge fan of Gary from the Hulk days and Supergirl and all his work and Supreme Power, and he was definitely like my favorite artist I wanted to work with. And so
can I say I'm really glad you didn't say since I was a kid.
I wasn't a kid when we're not that much different. We're older than everybody else here, like, because we do remember the Image days, which is a big, huge influence on Ghost Machine, obviously. But I was a huge fan of Gary, and I was at Marvel. A lot of people don't even know I worked at Marvel for almost 2 years. I was writing the Vision and Avengers, and Gary was working at Marvel, and Tom Brevoort, I talked to him, great editor, awesome editor at Marvel, Tom. And I said, Tom, if Gary's available, like I would kill to work with Gary Frank, kill to work with him. And then we ended up doing some Avengers issues, and I loved it. We didn't know each other really, and I would check in with him. And then I signed exclusive with DC, launching Teen Titans and Green Lantern Rebirth and stuff. And Gary was at Marvel. That might be when you went to do Supreme Power. And
possibly, yeah, I was exclusive for a while because every so often he'd send me a message, but my exclusive deal just kept seeming to last.
Every like 6 months or a year, I'm like, hey, are you still exclusive? And he was like, yes. And then it was like 2000, I don't know, it's early 2000s. They're just about to collect all our Superman stuff into a big absolute. We just got like the PDF of everything, all these extras. I did commentary on the Legion. There's like a secret bonus thing inside. But anyway, it was great to collect like all the stuff we've ever done with Superman, because Gary to me is the best Superman artist that's ever lived. So we saw there was an opportunity to do Superman, and I called Gary, and he was like, his contract was finally up and he was interested, and we ended up doing Action Comics. They offered us Superman, but we wanted Action Comics because that's like the first one. It was like, wait, but like Action Comics always sells less. I'm like, I don't care. I want Action Comics. Like that's the real, like, I want to be part of that legacy. And so Gary and I got to do that, and he had never, it was a Superman and Legion story. Gary didn't really know the Legion, but we talked so much about character, because all we talked about was like, he's like, why are they important? And I'm like, well, they're important because when Clark was a kid, he was completely alone. He was an alien who could fly. He felt like a freak. And one day these kids showed up, and they could all fly too, and they were all aliens. And so suddenly Clark wasn't alone. And I think Clark deserves not to feel alone all the time. So I want to have the Legion back a part of his life, because it gives some relief to a very lonely childhood. And so Gary and I wrapped around, like, just started talking about character, and all we did was talk about character. The plot was connected to character. We never talked about like, let's do big double page spreads or explosions or anything. And as we did Superman, we just really clicked. We did Superman and the Legion, then Brainiac, and then Secret Origin. And then we were actually going to go do some more Superman stuff, but we got offered Batman Earth 1, and then that led to another one, and then Shazam, and ultimately, I mean, we're going to go through all of it, I'm sure. And so, but Gary and I talk all the time. And we both want the same thing. We want great characters. We want you to care. We want you to connect emotionally with somebody, and all the rest of this stuff will come. Like the rest of it is, to me, is easy. Is if you have that you're led by your heart, not by your, what's cool or what's smart, or it's just what do you feel? And so Gary and I we kept, and everything we did, like, I'm so proud of that book. I'm so proud of that book. Like if someone says, what do you do? I'm like, well, I just look at everything Gary and I've done. I'm like, I'll pick any of those. and they're kind of designed to be like the Superman stories. We purposely did them. You can read them in any order. You can read Brainiac and then Secret Origin, then Legion, or you can read Legion. Like we did that because we felt Superman was so big, and we wanted to make our books and stories accessible. And for a strange reason, even though we've worked in continuity with Superman and Shazam and even Doomsday Clock, I think Gary and I have when we work together, there's something magical that happens where we can, I think Junkyard Joe and Geiger are examples of it too, where we can actually create something that you don't need to read hundreds of comics to understand, whether it's Batman or Superman or Shazam or Doomsday Clock even. Really don't need to read a lot. I remember with Doomsday Clock, they're like, well, what do I have to read? I'm like, Watchmen and just know who Superman is. And that was it. It was designed for that. It was designed to take the greatest graphic novel ever written and the greatest superhero ever created and smash them together and see what would happen. Who would win? Who would affect the other one more? And so yeah, that's why Gary and we just clicked and really enjoy. I really enjoy, and obviously we're good friends too. I really enjoy his company, but I mean, Ghost Machine started because of that relationship, because Gary and I's relationship. We were going to go do more work for hire stuff before Gary was really like, let's go do Image, like let's do Geiger. And Garrick Stevenson had been asking me to do stuff for years. And when we did that, we were actually going to do Geiger and then go back to work for hire. And we had so much fun and we kept going.
We had a project planned
already,
didn't we, to go back after we did that. Which
we had a big work for hire project planned right after Geiger. And then it was like, oh wait, Geiger did so well. And we had so much fun in the creative control. And I would like to talk about creative control at some point because Ghost Machine's about it, because people, I think, misinterpret creative control as no one tells you what to do and you just do anything you want. And that's not the case. It's you get to work with who you want. You know, it's you get to collaborate with who you want, because you want collaboration, especially in a medium like this. But anyway, that's kind of why we stuck together, and now Ghost Machine came out of our relationship. It really did.
It's fun in a way that talking about to just go back to what you're just saying then about the creative control aspect of it, and it's not about necessarily, you know, I was thinking about this recently, and it's kind of like, you know, you remember when you're a kid and you kind of, you know, you got a buddy and you sit and you're playing with, I don't know, Action Man or G.I. Joe, and you're kind of inventing these scenarios and everything. Yeah. It's almost like that. It's almost like we're doing that on a kind of a more complex level now. But it's the same thing. It's still two kids with action figures. And like and now he's going to do this and he's going to do that, and you just kind of, you know, you're putting yourself into these characters, and you're kind of, you know, imagining what they're going to be doing in these scenarios. And it's basically, I mean, obviously there's craft to it, which comes with, you know, with the years and stuff. But essentially, it's course the same thing. As that, it's just playing with toys.
You'd mentioned that there's a level of truth to the stories that you try to incorporate, and with that character, that's how that starts. Do you feel there's a deeper level of honesty that you can kind of present by having a bit more of that creative control?
Yeah, you know, Mark, it's a great question. It's not one that I actually was aware of until we started working, because I remember writing Green Lantern for almost a decade. I loved working on that book, such a privilege and honor. And I worked with great artists, great editors, it was a great time. But I remember when I got to the ending, I was like, oh, I'm leaving, and I can't do a real ending because this book's going to keep going. And I'm like, I hope they don't kill all these characters. I hope they don't blow up all the core, because I'm like, the first thing someone's going to do is come in and just wipe out all the other colored core. And they're cool, like they actually mean something. But anyway, it was different because like with that, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the best ending I can, and I wrote Green Lantern 20 as somewhat in the future, so that you could look back and you could actually end not read any more Green Lantern and have a closed ending after that issue. But I knew it was going to keep going, and there's certain things that Batman's going to keep fighting the Joker, right? That's just going to happen. The Joker's never going to stay in Arkham. There's never going to be an end to the Joker or the Riddler or the Penguin or Bane. They're just going to keep coming back. One of the things when we started working on Geiger and Junkyard Joe and then Redcoat and Rook and more Geiger and all these books, that characters have beginnings, middles, and ends, that there's not going to be a cycle of repetition, because that's not the nature of these stories. And that's something that was a new kind of a new tool to me as a storyteller, because I've been working so much with the DC universe or Marvel earlier, where you knew Captain America and Red Skull were going to eventually fight again. There was never going to be an ending. And so Gary and I are like, we're working on the Geiger monthly book right now, and there's a great new character we've introduced that we're talking about their story, their beginning, their middle, their like where they're going. And it's so exciting because the emotion of it is so much more real and honest, like you say, because it's not going to be a cycle, it's story. And that's, I didn't think about that stuff before we started doing this. I didn't think so for me writing, I'm so excited I wake up, I'm like, I cannot wait to write this stuff, because I'm having more fun than I've had since probably the heyday of, for me, like I was writing, like when Gary and I were doing, Superman and I mean, everything I write with Gary I have fun with, but like Green Lantern and all that stuff where you really are digging into these characters, you really invested all our time. That's why we're exclusive too, is like, I don't want to do anything else but this. I can't. To really dedicate myself to this, just because it's like, we're not doing 5 issues of Geiger. This is a years and years and years and years long book. Like, it's going to keep going and going and going. But the new tool to me that I was not conscious of was the honesty of storytelling that we're going to have, because they aren't like, oh, Joker's stopped, and then 6 months later there's another Joker story. And I understand those books. I love reading those comics, but as a storyteller, when you're thinking about big stories and long form storytelling now, it's just different. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, I
So,
think.
sorry, Tyler, I need to get this in. I want to say, if you guys want to see exactly what it is that Geoff is talking about, Ghost Machine #1 is coming. And the final order cutoff date for that is this coming Monday, December 18th. And the actual issue releases on January 24th. You're going to get to see the creators and the characters that you're going to love. And we can guarantee you're going to love the characters because Junkyard Joe and Geiger are already beloved. And these are new characters. And this is what has already happened. And we haven't seen what Jason Fabok is doing with Rook War or Rook Exodus. I'm sorry. We haven't seen the Rocket Fellers. We haven't seen all this stuff yet. We've only gotten a taste and we already love it. So creators characters you love, don't forget, if you want to get in on the ground floor of Ghost Machine, grab that Ghost Machine #1, Monday, December 18th. That's the final order cutoff. You can go to your LCS and let them know that you want this. Tell them you want it. Tell them that you're into this so that they can order more and more people will join the fold. This is the Image boom in 2023. Get in on the ground floor. I promise you won't regret it.
Yeah, people are always complaining about jumping on points. Right here.
Yep.
It's a big jumping on point, and the fact that we only have like two. We have, a Geiger Volume 1 and Junkyard Joe Volume 1, but you don't even need to necessarily read those. You can just pick up Ghost Machine #1 and you'll get a chance to check all of the characters out. I mean, it's a really 64 pages. We put a lot of effort into it. I don't think you'll find a better or more beautiful book on the stands. I mean, you got Gary Frank, Brian Hitch, Jason Fabok, Francis Manapul, Snaberg, Ivan Reese. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And we have more artists we haven't announced yet, more people we haven't announced yet for this too. But we'll talk about that next time.
Fair enough. Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah, so Geoff, you mentioned, the honesty of being able to do this creator own stuff. And that reminds me of like a Bendis quote with him having to talk about putting his toys back together, together before the next person can play with them. And I actually think that this brings up a good question that one of the listeners had was Tom Account asked, thanks for the many, many great stories over the years. What level of danger and consequences can we expect to see in the Ghost Machine line? For example, that is something that Robert Kirkman tapped into in The Walking Dead, making readers not want to miss a single issue. Can we expect that kind of level of excitement and uncertainty?
Yeah, I mean, because when things happen, they happen, and there is a lot of, with Geiger, Gary and I are working on right now, there's a lot of consequence. The book's about a man who's become a monster and he's trying to become a man again. Like it's in a dangerous, violent world where he was surviving and living for one reason, to protect his family. And when that reason is taken away, what does someone like that do now? And that's really where we kick off the story. And issue 1 right away, I mean, we have such I love issue 1. I can't wait for people to read issue 1. We introduce a character that's going to be a big mainstay in the book too. That's a lot of fun. Gary and I are really enjoying that character. We talk about this character all the time.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Now, if I may, because Geoff, we love you. We've interacted with you a few times. We're familiar. I would love if we could put the spotlight on Gary right now. So I want to say, Gary, first of all, you are my favorite artist of all time.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Absolutely. The first Superman comic that I ever read had your art in it. It was you guys. It was that Action Comics. I never tried Superman before, and I said, wow, okay, this looks great. I'll give it a shot. And I was blown away. So, and I've loved everything since then. It's all incredible. I checked out Kin. I love that.
Oh, wow.
So I love you. You're my favorite.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We always hear about the motivations of the writer, right? We always hear, what it is that motivates them to tell the stories that they tell. And I feel like we don't often get to hear the artist side of that. So what are the things about your life experience, the things that matter to you that you like to bring to your stories and your collaborations?
Again, I think we're going back to what I was talking about earlier about Geoff and I kind of share certain themes and things that we like to kind of, to go back to. And one of those is family. We both have families, and we're both dads, and there's like kind of that sort of gets reflected, I think, in a lot of the story, kind of the importance of that. And Geiger, I mean, it's the core of Geiger. He's a family man who's protecting his family, or he thinks he's protecting his family. And yeah, so I mean, these are things in terms of themes in general. I don't know. I don't think we necessarily want to make anything too overtly political. I think there's a kind of there are certain things which kind of echo through all stories, kind of to do with conflict and good and evil and things like that. And I think we're basically all art forms, or all of the modern art forms, and most of the modern art forms are kind of tapping into those things in some way. So I mean, there's the ideas about heroism and doing the right thing and trying to take a moral stand and trying to kind of maintain a moral compass. So I think that's something which has kind of been in all of the books we've done. I don't think you can really do a Superman story, for instance, without that. The Batman's story we did was the Earth One stuff. It was also integral to that because it was an unformed Batman. So it was kind of stripped back to the man he is, and then kind of building the Batman around him from scratch. So all of these things I think are interesting things to explore. It's fun stuff. But mostly, like I said, I think the main thing that I really enjoy doing is I just like to find a character and then get to know that character and feel that I know him, and then just try to make that person feel as real as possible on the page, so that when a person's reading it, they care. They care not because it looks cool, he's got a cool costume, or he's got a cool superpower, or anything like that, but just even a robot with no facial expressions. You feel the humanity. You kind of that's just a great buzz when you can kind of like put together. I say this quite often, but like throughout my career, which has been quite a long one, I've kind of found some satisfaction in different aspects of it. And for a few years now, the thing which gives me the most satisfaction is when I've got a block of pages, or I've got a scene, and at this point, of course, there's no letter, and I know that I know what's being said because I've read the script, obviously, but the satisfaction for me comes from just laying out 5 or 6 pages and just running through them at the silent panels like that, and then just when it feels like it's kind of clicking, when it feels like even without that direction from the words, you still feel that you know where it's going. That's the buzz now, I think, for me. So, and I mean, I think a degree of that is also down to kind of like understanding the characters and knowing how they're reacting to the situations, trying to communicate that. It's fun when you can do like a cool action scene and some visceral thing, some whoa moment. It is fun and it's cool. But for me, the real satisfaction is kind of just like trying to feel how these characters we're trying to communicate how these characters are feeling. And if I feel I'm successful with that's where the satisfaction comes from.
I love that.
And I think Geoff, last time you were on the show, it was Junkyard Joe, where you mentioned those silent panels that Gary does, that just
Yeah.
helps with pacing and it adds it's an intended way of getting the reader to kind of feel what you want without.
They're very they're very intended because, especially with a character like Junkyard Joe, who can't emote, at least the way we think emoting is. So you have a girl like Emily who's afraid and looks up, and then you see Joe, a silent panel, and he just takes a step back or turns away. You get emotion from his movements, but you play off the other characters, and the way Gary does it, you need those silent panels. We have a lot of silent beats in our books, like in all our work we have, because that's where you feel the emotion. I call it leaning in, because there's kind of two types of storytelling. We try to do this with the Stargirl too. Like there's a lot of TV, I call it lean out TV, where they just talk about what's going on. They talk about they talk about they talk about what's going to happen. Then they talk about what's happening. Then they talk about what happened. And you've got these wall to wall to wall scenes of just people talking, dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. And you never really feel anything. So you kind of lean back, you check your phone for emails, you go get a snack, whatever. The moment you don't have someone explain everything, you're being a viewer, you're watching something and just like, and your brain's putting it together instead of hearing what it's about. I feel like you're leaning in, and I call it lean in TV. So I was always like, we got to do silent scenes. I don't want to explain everything. I don't want, like, there's certain things you want to explain, but there's certain moments you want them to feel like when Clark, even in our first Superman issue, I think it's the first one, Clark is feeling lonely because he knows he's this alien and he's walking home from school, and he sees a bird flying, and it's a bird flying, and he flies up with it. And he flies up with the bird, it's all silent, and then for a moment he's happy, and then the bird flies off and it joins a flock of other birds, and he just stops and watches the flock of other birds go, and you see this look on his face as if, oh, he has somewhere to go, I don't. And that flock of birds ultimately is a legion of superheroes, right? That's what it's going to be to him. His flock is a legion. And that scene in that first issue was really important. People might not really understand why that scene's in there, but they certainly will feel something. They'll feel Clark have a moment of joy and then it's taken away. And what the entire storyline was about was finding that joy for him again, like giving him that joy, because Clark deserves that joy for being Superman. He's like, I want to see Clark always upset and unhappy, but finding your tribe, like you guys have, right? You find your group. You guys do this every week. For how many years?
7.
Every week for 7 years, Gary. They haven't missed a week.
Never.
Excellent stuff.
Crazy. So anyway, the point of it all is that the silent beats, the panels, all that, everything Gary's talking about, that's what we live for in our storytelling. That's why we've connected. And Marco, when you said the honesty of storytelling, and it's funny because I was thinking when Gary was talking about Batman Earth 1, I'm like, that was one book where we could have definitive characters and endings. Like we actually ended with an Arkham Asylum that my grandfather was schizophrenic, and he was in an era where it was not treated very well. And I always saw Arkham as this rotating thing that, the bad guys come in and then they just get spit back out. And every time you go in Arkham, it's dirty and dingy and there's leaks. And so I'm like, we're going to build to a place. And we made Martha in Arkham, which she was not ever before. We gave her that so that, and she was in and out of institutions, and Bruce knew that. And so Bruce was always a little bit like, he was very conscious of all that. And then when his grandfather shows up and he has issues, that Bruce was very concerned about mental health. And so that ultimately we ended our trilogy with an Arkham that was designed to help people, and a Bruce that was willing and dedicated to helping people, including Jessica Dent. And so our arc in that was we took a very different approach and looked at a Bruce Wayne that was more concerned about mental health in general and his dedication to helping people who were struggling, like his mother was, right? And that's, and again, Batman Earth One, there's a ton of silent panels. And it's not just to do them, but it's because those emotional moments are really, to me, what affects a reader more, because they're putting it together for themselves.
I think that's it also kind of like when you engage somebody and you force them to kind of create something a little bit in their own head, the whole experience kind of, it drags you in a little bit more, it becomes a little bit more immersive. I remember I went through a period where I just got obsessed with Akira Kurosawa stuff, and I became quite evangelical about it, and it was a real hard sell. Yeah, there's mostly black and white stuff, and you need to watch it with subtitles. You can't listen to it dubbed. And it's quite a hard sell, and I didn't understand. I was thinking about why I was just becoming so addicted to this stuff, and I realized it was because, or I think it was because, by having to do that little extra bit of work of reading, you're, as Geoff said, you're leaning in a little bit more. Everything else around you is a little bit more distant. The fact that it's black and white, your brain is then having to fill in another set of gaps. You're then also working to add the color that in your mind, or to fill the scene properly. The more it's asking of you, the more you're kind of like leaning in, the more everything else kind of just drops away around you. So it just becomes a much more intense and an immersive experience. If something is really, really easy to digest, and it's full of exposition, and as Geoff said, somebody's telling you everything that you need to know constantly, and your brain has that excess capacity to just then get distracted by something else, you lose that depth. And it's odd how many things these days, the delivery method is so the stuff goes down so easily and then you don't really understand why, but 20 minutes in, you're thinking about something else. It's just because you can.
Yeah, you're having because to me, all I think about in storytelling, whatever it is how is the audience connecting to this moment? That's it. How's the audience going to experience this? I'm always thinking about the audience, the reader. That's it. How are they going to interpret this? How are they going to think about it? So there's certain things where I'm like, okay, even in the Legion storyline, the first one that you read, Sean, the first one we did, even in that, I'm like, the Legion's a complicated concept to a lot of people. Gary was like, what? It's a lot of characters, I said, well, here it is. It's all they're Clark's childhood friends. That's it. Right? He hasn't seen them in a long time, but they're his friends that he connected with, and he lost touch with them. That's the story. I'll explain all the stuff as we go, as I need to, but it's the emotion of loneliness that Clark has, and then hearing years and years later that his friends are in trouble, and who doesn't have childhood friends that they wouldn't go help? There's a different bond with childhood friends, right? You guys, I'm sure, have a friend you remember from long, long ago that if they called you today and said, look, I can't explain why, but can you fly here? I need your help. You would be like, I'm done, no problem. Right? There's a different level of friendship with childhood friends like that. And so the explanation, I always think there's got to be a little explanation. I used to do like little origin boxes if we had to for JSA or something, but whatever, to explain the concept quickly so I could get into the emotion of it. And then you would learn about the nuances and the sophistication and all that details. The world building kind of comes with it, but it is the lean-in process where the reader and the audience, you want them to have to work a little bit for it, because not just because you're like, you wanted it to feel smart or what, because you want them to kind of engage with it that way. That's how you connect with somebody. You connect with them because they connect, because they're leaning and putting it together, and they're like, oh, that's how I'm feeling. This is how I'm relating to it. And now you've got them connected, because you guys have all watched the TV shows that just are like overly explaining, or the comic books that are big splash, pages and just fight scenes, and it's cool, but you certainly aren't like locked in going, I remember that moment. Most of the moments you remember are character moments. They're defining character moments. They're not these big, these kind of, no one ever says that exposition scene was my favorite scene.
I just to sort of take that example, one of my favorite shows over here is called Death in Paradise. And it's a murder mystery show that's, a very crime of the week type thing. And just as you say, like I was just thinking about why I like it. And it's because, I like the detective, right? He's your bumbly English guy in the Caribbean. But
That
I
show's
don't.
still going. Is it Ralph Little?
It's Ralph Little right now. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Wow.
But
I don't see much English TV anymore. But yeah, sorry, I'm interrupting.
oh yeah, no. But I was just thinking, like, I couldn't tell you a single case out of the 13 seasons they've done. And it's literally because, you know, the cases aren't what are important. You know, they're gonna solve the mystery.
Yeah.
And every 10 minutes they bookend, you know, the commercial breaks or whatever with a recap of everything they know until the episode ends and they can get to the human parts that will keep you coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because if you are with if you connect with the character emotionally, you will go with that character anywhere. And you won't really remember, like Spider-Man 2, I remember like Doc Ock, like it was so emotional, it was cool. His plan was crazy, that it didn't made no sense, but you didn't care because you cared, you understood why he was doing it. Right. And I think that emotional connection is all that matters. All that matters. That's I've always like, that's why taking characters that, you know, with Shazam, when Gary and I got into it, it's like we got to connect with Billy and these kids. Because we looked at Shazam, we're like, look, a kid turning into a superhero is cool, but that's not what this is necessarily about. It's about a kid who all he wants to do, Gary and I talked about this incessantly. He just wants to turn 18 to be an adult. He just wants to be an adult. He wants to turn 18 just to get out of the foster system and have people stop trying to tell him what to do. He doesn't want a family. He doesn't want a fake parents in his mind. He just wants to be 18 so he can do what he wants and just get out of this system because he's had a really hard life. And then he's put into a foster home where he eventually ultimately connects with all these people, these foster parents and these brothers and sisters. And his secret superpower ultimately is to share his power with those he deems family, including all these kids. Obviously adapted right to the movie. It's that first movie is literally our graphic novel, almost scene for scene, which we were really proud about. But that heart, that emotional journey, we looked at it and said, how do we take a kid who can turn into a superhero and make it into an emotional story? And also the thing that I always loved about Shazam was he's got Mary Marvel and Captain Marvel Jr. He's got like others that he gave his powers to. So let's make that all of that circulates around the center of gravity, which is about found family and how important it is and how wonderful it can be and how magical it is and how rare it is. And so that's what we did, is we took all these pieces of mythology and concepts and great stories from the past and expanded the kids out and made it more modern, but took all of it, put it around that emotional center. You know, that emotional center is why that movie works, or why our comic book worked. But that's why Gary and I did it. We had a great time on Shazam. Junkyard Joe felt to me like the closest in terms of tone to something like Shazam that we've done in a while. It was very different, but still had that kind of Spielberg, like early Spielberg feel, which is what we were going for. Small town in Indiana and a robot soldier shows up, which is a crazy story. And not a typical.
Christmas always helps as well.
We do like snow and Christmas. It's fun.
A little extra sprinkling of magic.
It is. There is something I remember in Shazam, like, let's make it happen during Christmas in the book, because it makes it more, families more important during that time. You're just thinking more about family, and then we did the same with Junkyard Joe, because it was such a stark contrast between the jungles of Vietnam and then the winters of Melody Hills, Indiana. Love that book. That was a really fun book to work on.
And Gary, when it tying all those pieces together, when it comes to representing that lean in comic moment, the thing that is burned in my memory is issue 3 of Junkyard Joe, where he kind of just has this PTSD moment and he kind of devolves. What do you think about when you try to represent that, both from the capturing that emotion, but also ensuring that it is lean in?
I think Joe himself, that character, there's so much lean in just because of the fact that you're asking the audience to bring so much to it. I think, and people sometimes have said, you know, about the humanity, how do you get the humanity, how do you do it? And the truth is that I'm not really doing that much of it. Most of it is coming from the person that's reading. You've got that blank face, and if everything else is right, and if it's written well, and if the other characters are reacting in a certain way, then I'm not really drawing that much into it. But the reader is bringing that stuff. They're layering it on because that's what they're thinking. They're putting themselves in the position of that robot, and then that's where the emotion's coming from. So that's the lean in on that. I can't raise an eyebrow, I can't change the eyes or anything, but but if everything else around this thing is right, and if the pacing is right and the story is right, then people will bring that themselves. And I think that's the secret. Okay, I can admit it now. Most of the work was done by everybody else.
One of my absolute favorite moments in comics of the last 10 years is in Geiger, when the last moment that Junkyard Joe has. I always go back to that. I always go back to it because we're looking at this robot, doesn't emote, but you really, when you read Geiger at first, you don't know his history, you don't know much, but you see, these final moments of the story where what he's thinking about, and all you're looking at is a blank face, but there's so much inside of that moment that it becomes a bigger moment when you read Junkyard Joe. Like, it pays off again. I love that. And that's that lean in that you're talking about. I don't remember the fight. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That glimpse of Muddy from when in his memory as he's he's shutting down, and you go from kind of like this Terminator style creature that you don't care about to suddenly, wait, whoa, what's that? Who's that?
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting because the Junkyard Joe, like, it's a very different story than Geiger, obviously, and purposely, but also just that's what the story was. But when Gary and I did that, we knew it's like, this is such not a mainstream superhero book. Like, this is not anything like anything we've done. And it turned out to be it's one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on. I just love that book so much. I have such fondness for it. For Joe, because I love Joe.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Sorry, just before we move on from that and talking about how it's not like a kind of regular traditional superhero, but there was a moment when we were putting together some stuff for the new stuff where there are kind of like character sheets and detailing the characteristics of the characters, and there was a section under one of them saying superpowers for Joe, but because that's what you do, right? When you're deciding what a character is in comics, you list a little bit about their background, how they look, and then what is their superpower, of course. And it just suddenly it like kind of landed like a clunk, just like, but superpowers, that's not what these characters are. They're not, they shouldn't have. I don't know. It just felt like it was that was. We've been doing these things, all of us, in this stuff. We've been doing these superhero comics for so long that you kind of you assume that there are all of these things that need to be done, but they don't necessarily need to be done with these characters. They don't even necessarily feel right to have them because they're different.
Can I share my screen for a second? I think it's currently disabled.
I will enable that for you right now.
Great.
There we go. You should be able to.
Okay, awesome. Because I'm going to just why we're talking about this. This is from Ghost Machine 1, some of the dossiers, but like it's called abilities here, and that was a discussion. Like, we actually had a discussion point about that because we went into it and we're like, okay, let's talk about these characters.
Rule.
Yeah, they're really cool. We're really inspired by the old DC Who's Who. I love those.
I miss those.
Yeah, I miss those too. And so we're doing these, but we're going to do these. In Ghost Machine 1, there's quite a few of these. We've got Redcoat, Northerner. So these are really fun. I'm going to actually go to the top of this book. I'll just show you guys a little bit about it.
Love the cover.
Super proud of all this, like the fact that they're going to keep these circles are going to keep getting smaller and smaller as more people join. But that's great. And this is a table of contents which I'll just run through. I'm not going to go through the whole book, but it really is like our four. We kind of start with these. We do start with these four universes. The Unnamed is one that we've talked a lot about in Geiger and Junkyard Joe. That's the one we've already started, and so that has the different characters across the Unnamed timeline, across the history of America. and all of their beginnings start in a period of war, because a period of war is where people really change. And I think as a society, we've seen like every war has massively changed the landscape of history in the world and people. And what we want to do with the Unnamed is really zero in on the individual and see how is the individual affected by war. And they're affected by war in very different ways. You know, it changes people's lives forever. It can be really tragic. It can lead to a reinvention or a rebirth. It can, you know, it can do a lot. You can learn about yourself, or you can change, or you can, you know, try and be a better person or become a worse person. So the Unnamed really explores all these different mythic characters across the American timeline, like Geiger and Redcoat and Junkyard Joe, and it was akin to, I grew up on stories of like Paul Bunyan and John Henry, and I always loved that there was these mythic Johnny Appleseed, these mythic American, you know, characters that you didn't even know if they were real or not. And so that was the inspiration behind the Unnamed. And then, you know, Jay's got Rook Exodus, which is, we've got this big sci-fi epic that takes place on a far off world. You'll see about that in this. And we've got, you know, Pete Tomasi's working on the Rockefellers with Francis, and Hornsby and Halo with Snaberg, both are which hilariously fun books. And then we have Hyde Street. But anyway, I'll just show you Gary's work on this because it's so good. But, you know, this one, Ghost Machine 1, is really designed to kind of just introduce these characters and start to get to work on the, you know, leading into the series. This new character here is one of my, I think Gary and I have really grown to love him. He's called the Nuclear Knight. He's one of the remaining knights from the Camelot from the first series. And thinks Geiger can help him. And he thinks he can help Geiger. And so he's been following him, and we'll get a little introduction to him here. But it's there's some more pages. I don't want to reveal too much yet, but it's just gorgeous stuff. And this leads into, you know, our monthly series. There's some more pages here, but that's a look at it, at least.
Sorry, Sean. Gary, you're here now. Could that spread? Could you just walk through, like, what am I trying to show here? Like, what is obviously page 2? Like, oh, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah,
like, what's going through your head? Like, how are you presenting this? I love that.
To be honest, the nature of this spread was dictated by the final image. So everything was just kind of going to be a lead up to that. So everything in the script was that there were the panels, and then we would end up with the big full figure shot. It's just I'm even though Geiger and Junkyard Joe are the only two of the new characters which should already be known. We're kind of aware that a lot of people may not know that, and we're certainly trying to find something where we can kind of, you know, entice people to find out more. So yeah, it was just about that. At this stage, the early stuff, this character, the Nuclear Knight, appeared in a Redcoat short that Brian Hitch did in the 80-page special, the Geiger 80-page special.
Yep.
So this story was kind of already trailed from that, but this is kind of their meeting. And so yeah, it was just there's a couple of other pages as well, so I don't really want to go into too much. And even if you could see everything that's in this book, it's still just kind of the tip of the iceberg of where we're going with the relationship between these two characters. But yeah, that's basically it.
And I love this very last panel right there. Again, another implementation of that silent, just I can help you find a cure. With that, you kind of step away and just you understand, okay, there's an implication there. There's something to be wrought because there was no reaction, and that is enough of reaction.
Yeah, the fact that he pauses means that it hits him, right? Just that if we didn't have that panel, you wouldn't see that actually stirs him, right? And he's not very stirrable, right? Like he doesn't really emote as much as some of these other characters do. There's a funny little bit here, like he says good doggy to this dog, and Gary Gary's always on me because I call him a dog, and Gary's like, he's a wolf. He's a two-headed wolf, not a dog. I'm like, but he looks like his Geiger's dog. So so there's a funny little bit where they get an argument about whether he's a wolf or a dog.
Oh, good.
Oops, it's up here. The PDF is getting corrupted again. It's so big, this file, it always does this. Anyway, we've shown you guys some stuff.
Appreciate
Love
that.
it. Every time you come, Geoff, you always show us something really cool. You give our audience a treat, so we really appreciate that.
I love to. It's my pleasure.
I was I was
Well-
reading that Ashcan from, I think it was near Comic-Con, I think,
Oh yeah.
where it had that double page in it, and it also had one for Redcoat, and like the characters in Redcoat, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a fun
Yeah.
one too. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some more pages in that. So you'll see there's like basically like 20-page sections of the unnamed with Geiger and Redcoat, and then section on the Rook stuff, and then Rockefeller's Hornsby and Halo and Hyde Street stuff. But it's really fun. I can't wait for the book to come out. I'll send you guys a PDF after this so you guys can read it. But it's turned out really good.
Can't wait. I literally cannot wait. I'm so excited for this whole thing to kick off. Now, I want to talk a lot more about Ghost Machine, and we're obviously going to do that. But I tried to put the focus on Gary, and we got there for a little bit. But I want to go back because
Okay, good. Let's do that. Yeah, I talk too much.
no, you're good. It's just the conversation evolves. We always have so much fun. I don't know when I'm going to get this chance again. There's zero possibility that I could have Gary Frank here on the podcast and not talk about Doomsday Clock, because Doomsday Clock is my favorite DC event. There's just so much amazing stuff in there, and we talked in depth about that, when we first spoke, Geoff. But Gary, you had such a big responsibility with Doomsday Clock. You had to sort of bring the Watchmen characters from a visual perspective into DC. And it wasn't just the ones that people know, it was the ones that you actually created for this new story. And so for you, what was the process of having to balance, being respectful to the original material and what Dave Gibbons did and those initial incredible designs, creating the new characters that had to feel like they fit into the visual language of Watchmen, but also look like they fit in DC, but then bring yourself and your uniqueness to the story as well. What was that process like for you?
Terrifying. Geoff will tell you that at the first time he suggested this, I wanted nothing to do with it. The first time he suggested bringing the DC universe and the Watchmen universe together, I didn't want anything to do with it. I mean, I just it felt to me just a terrifying idea, and I just thought I'm going to let somebody else take that on. But as it kind of evolved, and Geoff kind of like built the structure and the ideas and the story that he wanted to tell, and he would occasionally kind of say, well, what about this? We do this and we do that. And then gradually I could see that there was like a point to this. It wasn't, and I think that the thing is, the way that it's perceived is that it's trying to be a sequel to Watchmen, but I don't think that sequel is really the right word. It's a response to Watchmen. It's kind of virtually every dark and gritty comic or deconstruction of superheroes that have come since Watchmen are sequels to Watchmen. This wasn't that. This was about saying what was the thing which was lost after Watchmen from superhero comics? What was the thing? Where did those things go? And could they still be found in that kind of iconic character of Superman, and kind of bringing them together and just saying, I mean, the message of Watchmen was essentially there are no real heroes, no real superheroes. Nobody comes out of it as a completely heroic figure, and so it was a way of saying, but it's nice though. It's good if we can have superheroes, and there's Superman, and he's great. And why can't we have Superman back? Why can't we have superheroes back? And so it was that. There was a lot of that in terms of the actual designs and stuff, and the Dave Gibbons designs of the original stuff. Well, obviously the original Watchmen characters were supposed to be Charlton characters, so that was kind of like the basis for that. So when we went about retooling some of the characters, we started at the thing. Geoff knew, obviously, Geoff's kind of encyclopedic for this thing, so he knew all about the Charlton characters, and he found a couple of Charlton characters, which were called, Geoff, help me. The Mime and Marionette.
Punch and Julie.
That's it, Punch and Julie. Yeah. So we started with those, and then kind of went back and looked how David gone from the original Charlton characters that were going to be the characters of Watchmen, and then built the Watchmen characters that we know and love today, and kind of just tried to sort of follow the same, the same route, the same process. And I having read Watchmen and it being my favorite comic before we did all of this, and then having to go back through it and read it and reread it again, I marveled at Dave's accomplishment. It's just everybody says Alan Moore's Watchmen, but the work that Dave put in is just phenomenal. And when you're actually going through again, because you're going to be having to do some kind of a visually related thing, you concentrate a lot more on the art, and and less on the story. You're less kind of carried away by the story, and it just made me appreciate what he did so much more than I did the first time on reading.
I think you did a phenomenal job.
No,
Doomsday Clock is, for me personally, nothing matches it, because it's not about the big punchy action sequences. I think one of the fears initially was, okay, Superman versus Dr. Manhattan, like that's for YouTube, that's for, those kind of channels that deal with that stuff. But what's the heart? And of course, if you're talking about a comic that's by Geoff Johns and Gary Frank, it's going to be heart. It's going to have heart and soul. And it did. And I think it surprised so many people, not just how good it was, but also how, I guess, respectful it was at the same time. I think there was a lot of concern about that as well. But from a visual standpoint, and of course a story standpoint, it honors the legacy of what Watchmen was, but it's also its own unique and special thing. And so I think, in reflecting on Doomsday Clock, people need to remember that, like, I won't even use the word lesser, from a different creative team, maybe you get what you feared. But from Geoff and Gary, that's not what it's going to be. So if you've ever been hesitant to read Doomsday Clock, take it from me, having the two creators here right now, it's absolutely worth your time. It's a phenomenal book.
It's thinking about it too. It really is. I mean, for me and Gary, I know you'll probably agree. It was kind of our next Superman story. It ended up being our next Superman story, because it's really a Superman story. Even though he doesn't show up for a while, Dr. Manhattan doesn't show up for a while, but ultimately it is a Superman story.
Yeah.
And Dr. Manhattan and Superman are polar opposites. And to see them and their philosophies come together, and it was a joy to work on. But again, nobody could do. I was like, if I told Dan DiDio, I said, if Gary doesn't draw this, I can't do it, because I don't know how to write this for anybody else. I don't know who else could ever pull it off. Like, I don't know the emotion of it. I don't know who could ever do this book. And every issue was 30+ pages. It was a lot of work, that book. It was a lot of work, but I'm so happy we did it.
I am too.
And plus, you gave Firestorm something to do in that book, which I appreciated as well. So,
Firestorm, he's great. I love that moment when he's like, tells Superman to go. He's gonna blow up, go, like blah blah blah, and Superman's like, "You can do. I'm not leaving. You can do this." I love that. I love that. Every moment that Superman in that, he's such a inspiration to me, Superman, and that comes from Donner, his Superman movie, and that's what Gary and I we both wrote intros and forwards or whatever to the absolute Superman that they're collecting of our work, and both of us share that touchstone that Dick made of Superman, and that's really been our compass for the character. And in Doomsday Clock, it was a gigantic compass. I really like that. But I like that Gary, a response, because it really was a response. Because I remember people like, wow, Watchmen affected this and affected this and affected this and changed this. I'm like, yeah, but that's great. I love Watchmen, but Superman affected a lot too. Like, and Superman still can. He's still relevant. And that was our whole point to Doomsday Clock, was Superman is an incredibly, he's so powerful he can affect the greatest graphic novel ever written.
Exactly. Right. That's the power of character.
That's a
And
power.
that's something that, you know, you guys have talked about a lot with Ghost Machine, is that that's what character can do. Character can take you places that you never thought you would ever go before, because you care. And what happens to these characters matters to you. What they do matters to you. Gary, you did Kin, which, you know, I don't even know if most people know this, but you wrote it and you drew it.
I
And
don't think,
so,
I don't think most people know it exists, but yeah, I did.
which is incredible, you know. Like, I was wondering, you know, do you ever flirt with the idea of writing a little more, maybe something for Ghost Machine, you know, picking up the pen again and writing?
Not really. Working with Geoff. Geoff's very collaborative, so I kind of we talk, and if I've got any ideas, then you know, I'll throw them to Geoff, and he can either use them or not, or you know, incorporate them or not. But I don't necessarily feel that I've got that urge. I feel pretty creatively fulfilled these days, because if there's something that I want to include, or I feel it would be cool if a character does this, and then I'll run it through Geoff, and like I said, he'll if he likes it, it'll go in. If he doesn't, he'll explain why, and it always makes sense. So yeah, no, I'm happy completely to be doing doing the stuff I'm doing the way I'm doing it.
I just say this, Gary is like, in the credits in our books moving forward too are just storytellers, because there truly is, like, Gary and I, when we talk about these stories, we're plotting. I run everything by him. We're talking about it. He is co-writing the stuff. Like, the plot comes from all of our conversations. I say, this is what I'm thinking. Gary will talk about it and respond to it. And from, by the way, big, huge things to little moments. Like, so it's not just like, here's my script, and then Gary just draws that. It is constantly a back and forth. I did a panel with Ivan in Brazil at CCXP, and he explained it really well to the audience as like collaboration. He's like, you know, when it works, the writer and artist are talking to each other through what they're doing. And that's what a script is. A script is me talking to Gary. The script, I'm just writing it for Gary. You're kind of doing two versions. You're doing the version you know the audience is going to see, but your script is what your collaborator get, what Gary's seeing. And so I'm talking to him through the script, and then he talks back at me through the art, because he's like, hey, I'm going to add this panel or do this or change this or whatever. So we're going back, and then I do dialogue on top of that. I alter dialogue once I get the pages. Sometimes they're exactly how they're written in the script, and sometimes he's moved things around or added a moment or switched. Like, even in Geiger 1, he had switched an ending beat on one of the scenes because he felt, well, that I wanted to end on there. I said, totally makes sense, and I just tweaked some dialogue and moved it around. So we are talking back and forth on the story. So you can say the technicality of like typing is writing, and you know, drawing is the technical, you know, term, I guess, or the literal term for actually putting pen to the artboard. But really, writing is a conversation that's happening in a amalgam, and you know, you're never experiencing art and writing apart. They're always talking to each other, and they're one thing. It's one thing that you're experiencing. It'd be like saying, like, I'm gonna have a piece of cake, but I'm gonna have the flour separately from the rest of the cake. Like, you just don't do that, right?
Right.
So for us, it really is like, when you ask if Gary's gonna write again, he's really writing now.
I love that. I love that answer.
I'm super happy. That's why the books are good too, because we talk about it and we just make it better. You know, again, I said it earlier, creative control is not, it's everything I'm doing and I'm the auteur and this is it and blah, blah, blah. It is, creative controls, I'm going to work with the people I love working with. We're going to be able to do great stuff together. I'm going to take the input I want from the people, but it's still huge collaboration. We just get to put the books out when they're ready. We get to make decisions with creative control and business control, because you you can't have creative control without business control, which
Right.
people always talk about. You need to have, when you say, I want creative control, well, you got to have business control with that too. You got to control the business, because then you can really make the decisions, you know, and that's been great, because we're like, hey, we want this issue to be 64 pages instead of 48. There's no one that decides that except us. Well, we still want to keep the cover price down to $4.99, even though we'll make a lot less money because it's going to cost more to print. We're like, we don't care. We want this book to be great. And because we control it, and we can do that.
Yeah, and then you can also go on a podcast and show pages from that book that's not even out yet. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I can't believe it's going to be out in like 6 weeks. It's crazy.
Well, let's dig into that. We've got a lot of Ghost Machine to talk. Ghost Machine #1 does drop January 24th, but the final order cutoff is on Monday, December 18th. So if you're listening to the sound of our voices before that, well, before the 19th, I guess, run to your comic book shop, call your LCS, let them know that you want Ghost Machine #1 in your pull list when you go the week of January 24th to get your books. You will not be disappointed. We can vouch for that. Everything that we have seen so far has knocked our socks off. So there's no reason to believe that that is not going to continue. And also, I want to say that Geiger Ground Zero #2 releases this coming Wednesday. So you guys can go grab that as well. Because again, there's really not, like, you're still in on the ground floor. You know, you have the 1 volume so far of Geiger, the 1 volume of Junkyard Joe. You don't have to invest too much to get to know these characters and to get caught up. So now would be a great time to do that.
Yeah, if you're curious, you know, Geiger Volume 1's out, Junkyard Joe's out, the trades, and Geiger Ground Zero 1 and 2. It's just a 2-part story that Gary and I did that explores the early origins of Geiger, and also leads to the ongoing series. It leads to Ghost Machine 1 and the ongoing series. And if you like Junkyard Joe, you definitely need to read Ground Zero #2 for sure.
Don't say that to me. Now I can't wait till Wednesday.
Too late.
And by the way, chat, I want to say, if you guys can get us to 40 likes, right? I have a plan for the end of this podcast. I want to do something very special. Hopefully, Geoff and Gary will indulge us, but we got to get there first. So smash that like button as we roll right along and get into Ghost Machine proper. So, New York Comic Con 2023. Biggest announcement by a country mile is the debut of Ghost Machine, right? Everyone's buzzing. It was an incredible vibe. The biggest marker of that was the panel, because the energy at that panel was just electric. There was so much excitement. You could tell even from just the questions that the audience had, like, whoa, this is something, you know, many of us have never even seen in our lifetime. And, you know, you talked about how it's like, what happened to the generation of creators that came after the Image creators. No one formed a team. You know, no one grouped up. Even in the 2010s, when all those creators kind of like left Marvel, that big exodus that happened, they all went to do creator own, but they didn't team up. You know, they didn't decide, okay, let's put our money where our mouth is and really bet on ourselves beyond just, you know, working for Image or Boom or what have you. So you guys have really taken, I guess you could say, a big risk, because you're leaving the comfort of working for DC or Marvel, where you know you're always going to have that check, and you know you're working on characters that people already love, and you're betting on yourselves and you're betting on your creations. So what has the response from the industry been to what you guys have created here?
Gary, do you want to start?
I probably don't really know so much about it, being out here isolated. I mean, I think probably Geoff is getting more first-hand response than me, so probably it's Geoff's the guy to talk about this stuff.
Well, my favorite quote kind of is from Todd McFarlane, who basically said what you said, Sean. What took him so long? Meaning, why did it take so long for another group of creators to decide to do something together? And you know, there's a lot of reasons for it, I think, but ultimately, the response has been great, because people are They know what it means. It's impactful because although it's interesting because on some level it feels natural that we would do this, but for it to actually happen with the level of talent that has come together, I think for Ghost Machine, it's pretty extraordinary. We've got a lot of people reaching out asking, when is Ghost Machine expanding? What are your plans? A lot of high level people asking me how'd you build your business? How are you guys doing this? A lot of people are just curious, and it's interesting because I think the co-owner, I mean, we operate it too. Like there's no other company that's actually owned and operated by creators. And so we just kind of flip the paradigm of every company, because there's a lot of publishers out there, small publishers that you guys all know, and they do great books, but their editorial structures, they're all the same. They're editorial structures who hire talent. And then they control and own most of the IP. The talent might, be connected to it financially in some way. And all we did was flip that upside down, right? Is instead of the editorial structures, because they're you can just replicate those. Those are easy to replicate. It's not easy to replicate talent, right? There's no other Gary Frank. This doesn't exist. So when we got this talent together, we just flipped the script, right? Instead of having the business folks, because I can run businesses, like we've all done. We all do our own personal business, but I've show ran shows and produced movies and been parts of studios. So to flip it, it was a lot of work. It took us over a year and a half to actually build what this business plan is, because we didn't just go, oh, let's just go do this. We actually sat down and said, how are we going to do this so it really works for all of us? How are we going to do this to be the most successful at this? What are the goals? And we spent over a year with a lot of smart people building our plan, our creative plan, our business plan. But ultimately, when you get down to it, they say, well, how does it work? Well, we just flip the script on every other business structure that's out there that's trying to own, and I don't love the term IP, but trying to own what creators create. We're not going to give up ownership. We're going to share it with each other, right? That's something that's big. Gary and I are sharing Geiger and Junkyard Joe. It's already out there, but now everyone co-owns it, right? So we just flip the script so that the creators are in charge, and we hire the structures, the editors, we hire everybody, but they're part of our company. They're part of our family. The Ghost Machine family, people we've worked with for years and years and years. And we're all in it together. But that's, that I think is the most interesting thing when we talk to people, like, so you guys really co-own everything? We're like, yeah, we do. Because we root for each other. And I have to say, we had a summit in New York, as you guys know, before New York Comic Con. And there's a different feeling even afterward when you're in this company, because you're looking at the books and you're just rooting for everybody. You're not just worried about like your little piece, right? I remember at DC, you just have to focus on, okay, there's a crossover here. Do I get sucked into it or not? But with this, you actually look at everything and you're like, I can't wait for all these books. I can't wait to read these books. I'm so excited for this book. You're really invested in everything. And that's pretty special.
Yeah. There's no kind of feeling of like there's no feudalism. There's no little tiny siloed areas, which is my territory or somebody else's territory. It's just everything is. You're as likely say on the subject of with like crossovers and stuff, or characters appearing in other books. Traditionally, there would be an element of competition of somebody saying, well, why can I have this character appear in my book? And somebody else would be saying, well, no, I'm using that character in my book, and they're in this storyline, and I don't want somebody else messing that up. But with this, if that question comes up, you're as likely to say, I don't know if my character being in that book would be good for that book, because it's everybody's thing. We all have this kind of feeling of everybody's book is equally important. We don't need to kind of carve out our little empires.
No, it's really feels united, and it's such a thrill to see everybody going back and forth, because you just get excited about everything, and having other support systems. Like, I've been inspired just like talking to Pete and Brad and Maytal and Lamont, just talking about story. And then I know that Brian and Gary and Jay and and Francis and everyone, Ivan comes in and turns in pages, and we're all like, everyone's like super inspired to just do their best, and do it in a very healthy way. You know, everyone that's a part of Ghost Machine is, I'd say, like, the people are as curated as the titles, right? It's all really good, really talented folks. Brad Anderson, best colorist in the business. Rob Lee, best letter in the business. We've got a great editorial staff, publishing business, just from top to bottom. But again, the thing that makes us unique is we're the only creator group in the world that co-owns the company and operates the company in unison. And that's pretty powerful stuff, because when we were at the summit, we were in this big room. There's like 20 of us. And I was like, there's nobody outside this room that can tell us what to do. That doesn't happen at any other company, I promise you. Every other company has corporate structure, corporate structure, corporate structure, structure. Individual creators know, right? They can go do their stuff, but as a group, creating titles and doing what we're doing, the goal was to just have the freedom and have the, you know, have the camaraderie and the culture. That's really what we've done.
And I think also it helps to exemplify the confidence that you guys have in each other. As much as you guys are friends and collaborators, it's also it's palpable that you look at another creator and you say, no, I know that book is gonna smash just because of the talent that's on it. And that talent is part of this larger pool. It is us, and that I feel is really unique.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, look, everyone's super talented. Like I you know, I don't think there's no question, like, the books are going to be of a quality, and we're not here to be like, we got to publish 10 books and meet our numbers and blah, blah, blah. We're not doing that. We're publishing. It's about quality, not quantity. You know, in April, we launch with Geiger, Redcoat, and Rook Exodus. And those would be the first 3 books for a little bit. And then the next wave of books comes. And we're going to be doing it rolling out really judiciously, because we just want quality books that come out when we're supposed to come out, and are great, and that with characters that people just fall in love with right away. And we're committed, like I said, we're committed to these books and titles. Like, these are long runs.
And I think
it's exciting.
And I think that's something that you do when you have the confidence of feeling that you don't need when we began this with Geiger, there was kind of like the traditional path. You kind of your fingers are crossed, and you're really hoping this character goes, because you're betting a lot on it, and you're hoping that you know it's going to be enough to sustain itself and to sustain us into the future. But the thing is, with the way that once you kind of build out in such a way that everybody else is kind of there with a safety net. So you get to try something, you get to be creatively adventurous with something, and you also get to stick with something. You also be able to get to say, I'm going to do 3 years on this book. You're not going to be panicking after 6 months thinking, I don't know, these issues aren't selling. Maybe I need to start again. Maybe I need to try a new character. Maybe I need another #1 issue to bump that interest back up. There's none of that. There's just the plan. We now take Geiger monthly. We plan on doing this for the foreseeable future. Obviously, from my point of view, I'm going to need artists to kind of jump in every now and then and help me, because I'm slow. But the idea that you get the luxury of knowing that there's that safety net, you've got everybody else is also doing their thing. Somebody is always going to be producing something good, and everybody's kind of sharing in that success.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait till I'm writing Geiger 43. Like, I can't wait. Like, I can't wait to be writing books that are like in higher numbers, because over the years, you know, it's constant #1s, constant relaunches. And I understand why they're trying to create jumping on points and stuff like that. But with us, we just get to create stories now. We get to have just runs. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Like, you know, I want to do Redcoat 77. Like, I want to get to these books where we're like, there's mythology, there's characters, there's storylines, there's highs and lows for these characters, and they've gone through changes, and, you know, and there's nothing like writing a monthly book where, because I have an issue planned where we have a whole issue that's just Barney, the 2-headed wolf, right? It's just him. Geiger falls asleep, and what's he do during that 3 hours, right? And what happens to him? There's a whole adventure that happens that we couldn't do it if it wasn't a monthly book. And quite honestly, this kind of storytelling lets us explore the characters in a much deeper way, you know. And I'm really inspired. When I was first reading books, like Vertigo was like kicking ass. It was like there was like Preacher and Hellblazer and Shade the Changing Man and Doom Patrol, and I loved those titles. They were so character driven and they were off the beaten path. They weren't straight superheroes. And that original run of Vertigo books that were my favorite books at the time. That's a huge inspiration too, because of those kind of high concept characters. But they were still very, to me, they were still very like not traditional in storytelling because they weren't, but they were traditional in the sense that they were character focused, not concept focused. There's a title character, and that's who you followed. And that's, you know, that we're about characters. Most of our books are titled after the main character, and that's what it's all about. And that was something else that was a huge influence from us to us for the original Image. They launched Spawn and Savage Dragon and Wildcats. And, you know, a lot of times books are launched more conceptually now. You know, it's like more of a concept than it is a character. And we wanted to get back to characters. We have this amazing, I don't know if I can even show you a peek at it. Well, we
would love that.
They're gonna kill me, but I'm gonna do it anyway because we're the bosses, so we can.
Right.
I'll just show you. So there's a because we're gonna release this, I think, this week anyway. So there's a connecting cover that Ivan Reese is doing that is for the first three the first three titles that launches, and you're gonna see this. This is just the part 2. You're gonna see this huge 3-part cover that features all our characters. It's all the Ghost Machine characters we're introducing in 2024. And so you've got there Geiger and Barney. You can see this is one of Swine from Rook Exodus's board. There's Mr. X-Ray and Pranky and the monster from Hyde Street. And of course, there's Geiger. There's the Nuclear Knight right there behind Geiger. And then you've got some of the Rocket Fellers. But then there's another image where you see all the other characters that we're going to be introducing. There's this beautiful image. Again, we'll probably release it this week. That is our entire Ghost Machine lineup, and that's something that we're excited about, to have our characters lined up. Right? It's like you get to go because Rocket Fellers could not be more different than Geiger or Rook or Hyde Street, and so that's, you know, our goal is just, again, focus on our characters. Our covers, like our initial covers, of course, are going to be these cool shots of our characters, but for our moving forward, like our characters, our covers are going to be story driven. You know, they're not going to just be a pinup shot that we can put on a t-shirt. And that's something we talked about. Like when we were reading comics, story driven covers were awesome, and it feels like we've really gotten away from a lot of that. They're usually just shots of our superheroes standing or posing, or they really don't have anything to do with the content inside. And so, you know, again, we're trying to just focus on character and story and quality. And we're not trying to be the biggest publisher out there. We're just trying to be the best.
Can we expect the return of word balloons to covers?
There's actually one on the Raincoat cover. It was on the Ashcan version we had. Here, I'll show it to you. Let me just open it up.
Our chat is going nuts right now, by the way. They love what you just showed.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So glad. I don't know is this showing right now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if oh, you know what? I gotta get the other one up. I'll show you though. Word balloons on covers, love it. But yeah, we want to create great stuff. That's all. And we really, we really believe in our stuff. Okay, here's 2 of the covers of Ghost Machine. So yeah, that could be something I said. In his story, he gets shot in the head right after that. We talked, by the way, alternate covers. We had huge debates because, there's so many alternate covers, and on Ghost Machine one, we have quite a few because we wanted to introduce our characters. We wanted to have everybody every character has a cover, right? Direwolf and Rocket Fellers. But moving forward, we really want to limit the number of alternate covers because we don't want to just have a million covers out there on our books. So although we're going to launch with some, our goal is to just have a very selective few and try and really try and just focus on all the again, the quality and the storytelling and the characters. That's what's important, not how many covers are on a book.
I think that's one of the biggest complaints I hear about from people in the direct market too. There's too many variants. So kind of limiting that.
Yeah,
sounds great.
yeah. So we're gonna let we're still gonna have variants, obviously, but after Ghost Machine 1, they're pretty limited.
I love this. If you are watching this right now, understand that we're very lucky and privileged to be seeing these things. And take that for what it's worth. You know, Geoff and Gary, you guys are dropping bombs, and look at that. Holy shit, look at Swine.
I know Swine's he's a super fun character too. He's really into his pigs, and like yeah, him and Rook go way back, so they're friends. They're trying to build a rocket to get off this planet. I'll show you, one more thing. It's really cool.
Wow.
Oh, good. This is the helmets page that's in the table of contents that I peeped. Yeah.
That is sick.
That's just a handful of them.
And there was a Ghost Machine trailer that dropped a couple days ago, and it has some really, really cool visuals in it as well. So you guys should check that out too, because all of this is building to Ghost Machine #1, and then everything spins out of that. So you don't want to miss out. Final order cutoff for Ghost Machine #1 is this coming Monday. So get to your LCS, let them know that you want to be a part of this on the ground floor. This is a sticking point for me, right? We talk every single week on this podcast about the industry at large. And we talk about the great, and we talk about the things that need some work, right? We talk about, where the industry needs to go. And putting your money, putting your effort, putting your time where your mouth is an important thing for us to do as fans. If we want new, right? If we're tired of the hamster wheel of, wow, I really love that Spider-Man run. Oops, it's over. And all that stuff that I really loved, someone else is going to do whatever they're going to do with it, and that's that, right? If we're tired of the hamster wheel, we have to support creators that are trying to do something different and special and unique. And that's the only way we get it, is by going out and supporting. So the time is now. Absolutely.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, we feel like, there's always like, we want to be additive to the comic book community and stores, and we want people and readers, and we want people to know, there's Ghost Machine books. Like, at the very least, I remember when I was in school, no matter how bad the week was, I'm like, at least it's comic book day. I was like, so it would get me through the week. It would get me through the month. Like, it really would in times that were tough, which is probably why I love them so much. And we want to replicate that. We launched Doomsday Clock the week of Thanksgiving, and I've launched other books the week of Thanksgiving, because I always used to love that week of going to get comics and then being able to go home and have a few days off. And that comic book, going to the comic book shop is special. So we want to at least make some books that, at the very least, when you go, there'll be at least, a book from us that will be worth picking up.
Yeah.
It's exciting. With all the stuff that's coming out, I do the same thing. I'm lucky enough for work and marketing. I get off the final week, and so I have a number of books just kind of stockpiled, ready to get through. I'm gonna sit down on my little nook, and that's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if like we talk about the 64-page one-shot Ghost Machine 1, and I'm like, if I was 15, and like I would pour through every single line of that thing.
Yeah.
That's why we have these throwback like profile pages and short stories and like, all this stuff in there, because we wanted this thing. You get it. You don't just read it in 2 minutes and put it down. You get it, and it's there for a while, right? You're really taking it in, and then you go back and that was here. Like, there's certain things in it you won't get that first read, actually. You have to go back and read it again and see, whoa, that's there. But that's the idea, is to create something that's just exciting. Like you can't wait to, like, I want this book and that book, or I want all the books or whatever. There's definitely going to be, I think there's some level of quality that hopefully we deliver that will connect with people, and they'll want to check out the books. But
Go ahead. Sorry.
We're working as hard as we can, and we're doing the best job we can. So.
It's all been so great so far already, and like I keep going back to the idea, creators, characters you'll love, we already love them. And something that I think people don't keep in mind, or don't think about, is like, you have both already created characters we love. If you put Junkyard Joe and Geiger aside, not every character that you played with at DC was DC's. You know, some of those were from the mind of Geoff Johns, some of them were from the mind of Gary Frank. So you've been creating characters that we love for decades, and so have the rest of the Ghost Machine creators. So this is not, you know, it's not an unproven idea that these creators can make things that you'll love. They've been doing it for decades.
Yeah, we really, I mean, some characters we really, a bunch of the Shazam kids we love, but like Mime and Marionette, where some of Gary and I's favorite, I think, to ever get that relationship and those crazy characters was really fun.
Yeah.
None of those characters of the other companies were created by executives. They were all created by people like us, and now this is our chance to kind of to run the show.
Yep. And reap the appropriate level of benefit, quite frankly.
And maintain that control, as Geoff said. I must admit, when Geoff, you were talking a little while ago about because I've kind of always had I keep doing non sequiturs, don't I? I've kind of always had like little patience with creators that say, "Oh, you know, I'm really, really upset because I created this character and then I walked away and then they promised me it was going to be dead and then it got revived and things like that." Because I kind of thought, well, you know what you're getting into. And then when you were talking before, I kind of, for the first time, I started to feel a little bit of sympathy with that idea, the idea that you kind of, because you're pouring your heart and your soul into this thing and you've got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then it feels like somebody else is then tacking a thing on the end of it, and I have a little bit more sympathy than I had at the beginning.
Look, my biggest, you know, my biggest joy, and also you know, it's not really a worry because I just don't worry about it, but you know, I created Stargirl, and that's inspired by my sister. I don't own that character, I don't control that character. I got to run the show, so when I ran the show, I'm like, I'm not letting anyone do this. I'm running it. I'm writing it. I'm producing it. I'm going to be on the floor every day when we shoot. I'm going to be there. I'm going to oversee every aspect from story to editing. And because of that character, because I love that character and I love DC too. So it was great to do kind of both. But I would be lying to say if I didn't really, really, really wish Stargirl. Not because I think they're going to kill the character or do something bad with the character, but it's an emotional thing too. You know, it is an emotional thing, and particularly with that one. So, but again, I'm very grateful for all the stuff that I've been able to do with DC and at DC and with work for hire creator characters, because that's what they are, work for hire. And we've created a lot of characters that they own. You know, Atrocitus is owned by them. Like they're all owned by them, and that's okay. That is, like Gary said, that is kind of the gig. You don't really understand that too much when you're young because you're just happy to be in the business. You're happy to be writing, and you're happy to be creating, you know, new characters and seeing them in comics. It's real, and it's a privilege. It really is. But there does come a point in your career, I think, when you do understand, and certainly Todd and Jim and everybody else at Image understood that. Kirkman, like you at a certain point, you do understand, like, there's a lot of reasons to take the plunge, and I'm grateful we're doing it now because quite honestly, all the experience we've had from everything we've done collectively put into this company is insane, because we have ideas coming in from Brad Meltzer and Rob Lee and Lalonde and everyone's from all over the place with different backgrounds. And so when you put all that experience and passion, and they're good people and smart, it's pretty insane how internally how much information and education and experience that we get to all rely on together. It's pretty awesome.
One of the big topics on like comic book internet right now is like, the big two needs to get these big name creators back to do comics, and I'm like, why? when you have something like Ghost Machine that's around, it just, as a creator, that just seems like a much more fulfilling option.
Well, look, our whole motto, and we've left this in the company, is that creators, like, when creators actually come on in a big way on Ghost Machine, they own it with us. That's the goal. That's how we built the company. There's room for more people. And that's exciting, because I want somebody out there, like, you can dream of working for DC or for Marvel. That's cool. It's a good dream. I had that dream too. And I was really lucky to fulfill it in the way I did. But a dream to, like, not work for Ghost Machine, but to become part of Ghost Machine, that is a cooler dream.
Hell yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
So I want to let the listeners have their say. We've got I mean, my goodness, people are so excited that you guys are here. And we're only going to be able to get to a few. I have to say that up front because we have to respect their time as well. But I want to quickly piggyback off of what you just discussed. In you know, some of the announcements that you guys have made and some of the stuff you've put out. One of the statements is building on the groundbreaking foundation of Image Comics. We prioritize the artist and understand the power that comes from uniting with others. Ghost Machine isn't only for the creators of today, but built for the superstars of tomorrow. Now, that's a statement that is a big one. And I think that it inspired a lot of hope in creators who, you know, want to break into the industry, but even creators that are in it, but they haven't found their home yet. You know, they haven't landed where they feel like, you know, they're needed or they can do their best. And so, what is the plan? How are you intending to fulfill that statement?
Well, as you know, we're just getting started now. So as we grow, we already have a plan in place to recruit and support more artists and writers and creators. So the goal, from day one, we knew we wanted to keep expanding and help empowering other creators. And so that's our long-term plan. And not just, you know, I don't want to get into it too much because it's internal, but we have, I mean, Gary knows what I'm talking about. We have very big aspirations for what can be and do for creators across the world.
Because obviously we can't just go the traditional route and just then become the suits and then just bring everybody in.
Yeah, because we will just, you can't, like, obviously there'll be some artists that come in or creators that come in and do some books that aren't owners and operators of the company here and there, but our goal is not to do that. Our goal is to expand and bring in owners and bring in people who have true equity, have true control, and to support that. But our plan to do that is I could say top secret, Gary, right? And it actually started with Gary. It's like quite a while ago when we talked about how do we expand in the proper way and what do we want to do and keep creators in control so that we don't become all like all the other companies, because that's not what we want to do. And we have a really good plan.
It sounds you guys are learning the lessons of previous publishers and really implementing and forward thinking, and I think the industry needs that to continue to proliferate and to continue to produce really good art. It is what it has always done, but if there are companies like Ghost Machine to help facilitate and grow that, it's only a boon on the industry, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why we love Image Comics too, because of how they, like, I was just up there with Mike Cotton, our head of publishing, and we were up there in Portland this week and met with the whole Eric Stevenson and the whole team, and it was awesome talking about everything Ghost Machine and Image and just the future of the business and how great it looks. Like, people are talking about how, you know, it was inspiring how sales are done and this and that, but the truth is, no, they're actually not. Like, people cannot like some of the stuff that's being published on like this, but there's a lot of great potential and a lot of great happening right now, and there's only going to be more ahead. There really is.
Let's let the listeners have their say. We'll rapid fire this. You know, we have a bunch. We'll do our best. So I'll start it off, and then, you know, the rest of you pals, you know, grab a question. Dan Trudeau asks, what have been no one knew Gary would be here, so I'll amend it. What have been their unexpected experiences getting a new comic book company off the ground, both good and bad? And then he also says, though it wasn't a company, Ghost Machine does make me think back to the Legends imprint of the 90s, where some of the most seasoned, well-regarded creators got together under a single imprint. Was that ever in mind while putting this together? So those two questions.
The second one, no, it wasn't really. The first one, I'll be quick because I know we don't have a ton of time. But the best thing that was surprising was when we had our summit in New York City.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I was going to say that.
And I would say every single person, I bet Gary says on the team says the same thing. because we decided to do a summit. We all flew in Monday. We're going to do summit Tuesday and Wednesday, and then announce Thursday. And a lot of people had never met one another in person before, or talked to one another, because we're from all over the world, which is cool. We're from everywhere. Brazil. Ivan was there secretly. Like we're from Brazil and Italy and England and Canada and the States. So it was crazy. So we all came there, and we bonded. The work we did, not only how much we accomplished, but how we bonded, what we taught, because we talked about, what do we want this company to be? What do we want this to do? How do we want to get, like, everything was decided together. But the thing that wasn't magical about that was that everybody it was like the personal connections between everybody, the bonds were just formed like out of steel. It was crazy to see people who had walked in Monday, didn't know each other, and by Wednesday night, it was like blood. It was awesome. That was the most compelling and surprising thing, because we all left we were all kind of like, okay, it's going to be a lot of work to get there, and we all left kind of sad, because it was one of the best experiences of my entire life.
Wow.
And I think you probably say the same thing.
Yeah, I was the last out of New York, and I just kind of was sat there in the hotel lobby, waiting for my ride to the airport, as kind of everybody just disappeared. From the first one out was Brian on the evening before, and then gradually just sort of seeing everybody, and it was quite a melancholy thing after all of that excitement. But I kind of, when we sort of arrived at the hotel, and I kind of had a feeling it was almost like, oh, I'm going to get a taste of corporate stuff now, what people do. And you kind of, when we had our room booked in the hotel, and everybody stayed in a hotel where you've seen the room, which is, has a brand name or a company name, and there's going to be some meeting in there, and it just all kind of felt like it was going to be something like that. And you walk in and you meet everybody and you start talking, and then like 3-4 days later, you're already feeling like kind of everybody's family, because you've eaten together, you've talked together, you've had a few drinks together, everybody's sharing the same excitement, everybody's got so many hopes and dreams pinned on this thing, and there's that kind of nervous enthusiasm. Everybody's equally nervous about meeting everybody else, and it was just an amazing feeling. It was really, really good.
Yeah, so much so that we're planning a summit, a company summit every year in New York, because it was so, and it's as much about kind of, and this was too, it's much about kind of talking about like how everything's going, the business, and how we're going to change and grow, and things we've learned, because we always say, like, we're going to hit speed bumps, right? There's no road that doesn't have a pothole, and life isn't just smooth. So if you guys know that you're going to hit something, you're going to face a challenge somewhere, but if we already know that, we know there's going to come challenges and disappointments and frustrations, but if we know that, we're ready when they come, we can catch it and tackle it together, and then process it, figure it out, move on, and learn from it. But by coming sorry, Gary, but by coming together, it was like, okay, every year is going to be a summit, not just for the company, but because it was so enjoyable and so important to the soul of Ghost Machine. Ghost Machine has a soul. Ghost Machine only exists because of the people in it. You can't say that about all the corporations. Those things change leadership every quarter, and we wanted to create a company with real passion and real soul, and that's what that New York exposed for me, is that, man, our soul's fucking awesome. Like,
yes,
good.
Love it.
Gary, what about challenge thing? It's just, for me, it's just a lot of logistics. Like, it's like, it's not surprising. I've it's not my first rodeo. So you just don't know what logistics you're gonna face. It's like, okay, from things like, just the transfer from image shipping with Diamond to Lunar, how that affects us on what we work. It's just really logistics. There hasn't been anything where, it's not like, no one's kind of, my head's not spun around by anything, so far. There's challenges everywhere in the market, and kind of getting out new characters. Like, people, there's 50 Batman books out a week, and we're trying to introduce new characters in the market. Like, there's always challenges, but I wouldn't say like there are unexpected challenges, but nothing shocking. They're just like, oh, right, we have to deal with this, or this comes up. That's all. I don't know about you, Gary.
I mean, I don't know if it's so much challenges. It's just it's just the degree to which this whole thing has evolved since the beginning, since going back to Geiger and thinking how small and simple, and then kind of like just getting glimpses of how it could be something bigger, and then watching over time as you kind of, you know, things come in and there are new ideas and new directions, and some work and some don't. The evolution of it has just been staggering, because I don't think either of us could have foreseen where we would have been, you know, 2 years ago, or you know, when we first started. I guess the, you know, the idea of building something bigger than just kind of a little stable of create your own books came maybe 18 months ago or something. It was something last year, early last year.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah,
the,
well,
the way it's evolved is just, it's beyond recognition at this point.
it is. It changed completely. And like also it's like, you know, Gary and I could have kept just doing our create our own books and like that's it. And Jay and I could have gone and done Rook, and Brian and I could have done Red Code, and Pete could have done his, like we could have stayed separate, but coming together and unifying, we're so much stronger in every single way, from the business to the creative to just like as human beings. It's so much more fun. I'm sure, Gary, you haven't felt this connectivity in your career probably.
No, never.
Like, yeah, I've experienced this when I ran Stargirl, because it was such a wonderful group. The cast and the crew was like the greatest of all time. So I've experienced the camaraderie that you can have when you're really happy and creating something, and you're respecting one another, and you're excited every day to interact. And that's what this is. And I'm glad that Gary and Jay and everybody's getting a taste of it. It doesn't happen. I've had it happen twice.
I've worked on my I've worked on my own. It's a very, very solitary kind of existence, as you know, as a penciler for like 30 years. So I mean, I've spoken to artists who've worked in studios with other artists, and there's an element of it, I guess, then that you're working with other people, but there's still, everybody is kind of pursuing their individual ends, and this is a different thing completely.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
Then one other question here from Amin Perez, who's in the chat and became a channel member. So thank you very much. How do you approach world building, especially when it comes to new properties like Geiger or Hyde Street? Is it harder to create in an already established sandbox or from scratch? One of the things I loved about books like Doomsday Clock and Junkyard Joe was getting new information and references from newspapers, articles as additional materials. Can we expect that for Hyde Street and Rook Exodus? I'm really grateful for your contribution to the comic book industry. Your work made me a DC fan. And speaking to Geoff there, but obviously the questions for both of you.
thanks. You will see a bunch of stuff that, especially in Ghost Machine 1, that gets in detail, that some of it's like Doomsday Clock style stuff, I guess, and then other things that, like some of those dossiers you guys saw. And it's, you know, it's interesting. As long as I know why I'm telling a story, like emotionally why, what am I saying about something? Like if Geiger, like what are the lengths you go to protect your family? What kind of person would you become to protect your family? Would you become something unrecognizable? And if I know what I'm exploring emotionally, the world building challenges all that. It all goes back to that core. That nucleus is like, why are we telling this story? What's it really about? And then the world kind of tells you what the world's going to become. So you don't just go, I'm going to do a world where there's like dragons and blah, blah, blah. Like you actually design the world. For me, I designed the world once I knew the emotional nucleus of my story. Why am I telling this story? What's the point? Like, why do it? And what are you saying about it? So and then if I worked on someone like Aquaman, I'm like, oh, I want to tell a story about identity. You know, I got about a guy who, you know, my dad is Lebanese and my mom's like from Ohio. And growing up in Detroit, there was my dad's side of the family. It was the Lebanese and the food and all that stuff, huge Lebanese community. And then there was my mom's side of the family. It was like Ohio, like small town Ohio. And that duality, I'm like, well, when Aquaman, I'm like, well, his father's a lighthouse keeper, which is a very noble job, and his mother's a Queen of Atlantis. Couldn't be more different. And yet now he's both, and he doesn't feel like he belongs on land or sea. And so it was an examination of duality and ultimately identity and acceptance, because he realized, well, I can be the bridge between both. I have to be. He thought he was nothing in either culture, and then realized he had to be the bridge between both. And that's what he became. He took the throne, even though he didn't want the responsibility. That was what Ivan and I did on Aquaman. And so if I know where I'm going there, the whole story is just, well, if that's the story, then Atlantis has to rise up and he's got to face that. It just builds itself for me in my head. My stories always just, they don't start with like a scene. They just, once I know that, they just tell me what they are.
I wish we had all the time in the world because I fucking love that run on Aquaman, and I would love to just dive into that. Oh my
No
god.
pun intended. It's so easy
Sorry.
to do that with Aquaman, by the way. It happened for 3 years when I worked on it.
Right. Sorry, Gary. I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
No, I mean, well, I mean, yeah, I guess because I'm going to keep talking. Yeah, no, I would just like to echo what Geoff said in that you're not kind of, there's not you're not building a thing because you think this would be cool, and then how do I retroactively fit this into a story which the characters are gonna do something with? The characters are there, and the story is there, and the arc of the characters is there, and everything else kind of is subservient to that.
Absolutely. Kill, do you want to grab one? Or someone
Yeah,
grab
I
one.
got it. So,
Okay.
Salt in the Swing reached out and said, I'm a huge fan of Jeff's work, presumably Gary's as well. I've got his Green Lantern run in 3 formats and reread it often. And my question is, what was the draw to bringing back so much of DC's history and doing it more than once?
Well, because I always remember people would say like, "Oh, let's start from scratch." I'm like, "But why? I've never met somebody the day they were born and known everything about them. Like you learn about who somebody is. Like it's more interesting to meet somebody who in the middle of their life and learn about who they are. And that's how I treat the characters. So I never liked reboots because it felt like you were getting rid of what I thought was potential richness to a story, to a person, to a character. When I brought Hal back, I looked at his entire run, everything. I'm like, well, what someone experienced that whole thing? Who would they be? And so I like the history. I think the history is important. I remember when the New 52 happened and they wiped out Oliver Queen and Dinah Lance's relationship, and I was like, that was such a great one. Like, what a bummer to have that wiped out because it's just rich, and it's just going to happen again. So, you know, for me, bringing the history back was just about relationships. That's why Gary and I brought the Legion, Superman's Legion back. They had wiped out the Legion and Superboy's relationship, and it was such a great emotional relationship, and there's a reason for it. It wasn't just because Legion was cool; it was because of everything I've talked about today. And so that's why I often bring the history of these characters back, because I don't like erasing it. I think it adds to the. I guess to me it adds to the. It's like a vacuum. It takes away from the richness of all the characters. Doesn't mean you have to reference every single story that's ever happened, because not every story is worth referencing. But I don't quite understand the whole scale kind of erasure of history.
Very much agreed. Kill, you're muted, bud.
Of course I am. It's sort of erasing all that history. It dilutes them down into these archetypes that don't mean anything.
Well, they become action figures then, right? They really become action figures, because if you're like, okay, here's then they really are. And nobody doesn't have any history or baggage or struggles or high points or low points in their life that you meet. So there's I never mind, like they're like, should we reboot Hal Jordan? I'm like, no, let him have turned into Parallax. That's cool, a great arc for him. Like, let him having experienced that. I can mine that for 3 years, 4 years. Like that can become who he, like a huge part of his growth is that he's got to kind of face fear again and overcome his own fear of what he did and what he became. And then ultimately, after he does that in Sinestro Corps, he could then experience other emotions. He's now ready to experience the others, the self-awareness of what rage is and what all these other things are. And that's where that grew. So I think it's really important. I mean, I think their history is really important, because if you don't like something in the history, just don't talk about it. Who cares? Why say it's erased? Why have to be that OCD?
Right. We've got a couple more listener questions that we want to get to. Again, we have to apologize. We're just simply not going to get to them all. It's not possible. We would have needed all the time we've spent to get to all of your questions. This one, though, is what we referenced earlier from Pete Collins. So full circle. And Pete says, questions for Geoff. What's his take? This is a huge question. And obviously, Gary, you're included in this as well. What's their take on the state of the direct market, and how do they see its trajectory over the next few years?
It's a huge answer that we could do a whole kind of interview
Right.
on that. I'll just say this: our goal. There's a reason that we got together, for a lot of reasons, but our goal is to create great comics that get people to go to the store. So we're doing our best to just keep the industry healthy, keep it exciting, keep books out there that are worth buying, create ongoing storylines, ongoing titles that bring people back week after week after week, like we did with all of our books we've done before, from Ultimates to Green Lantern to Justice League, everything we've tried to do in the past. So the state of the market is I have investment in a comic shop here in Earth 2 Comics in Sherman Oaks. I want that store to stay alive and healthy and kick ass. And the best thing we can do is create great books. And but I really believe in the direct market, and I believe people are going to keep reading comics. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't believe in comic books. And we love comics. We love them. So we're doing the best we can is to support creators and support newness and support quality and get the books out there. So my take is the direct market just needs as much creative talent in it, kicking ass as possible.
Love that. And then Pete also says, does he need an artist? And I mean, we have Gary Frank here. So and Pete is a great artist, but
we got to check Pete's art out. Then once I see his art, we'll come up with a handle for him.
Oh, right. Shoot, I don't even know how we would be able to show you right now, but the Bardic Verses is a great book that Pete works on. Okay, so we'll do one more from Bruce Wayne, someone that you're very familiar with, both of you, who says, thoughts on Hawkgirl making her cinematic debut in Superman Legacy as one of the biggest contributors to the character of Kendra Saunders.
I love Hawkgirl, so any more Hawkgirl is always good.
Nice. And Grayson Red just wants to say, was at NYCC and you guys were so cool and excited. Love the fact that you're a group of legends. Got the Rook poster framed in my room. Keep going.
That's the goal.
Now, I promised that we could do something fun if we hit the likes goal. We killed it. So Geoff and Gary, will you indulge us in playing a very quick, very simple game?
I'm sure Gary will.
Yep. I'm just unmuting myself because I'm coughing every so often. So.
No worries. We're this will be quick, and then we will get you on the mend. So this is something that we do every single week. It is a draft. And the way it works is we pick a subject, and then we have to draft characters, for the most part, based on that subject. And so, because of the nature of the kind of work that you both enjoy doing, and the nature of what Ghost Machine is, you guys are working on genre characters. You love genre, right? This is the genre draft. And so what we are tasked to do, the six of us, is to assemble the greatest team of genre characters across all storytelling. You can pick anyone you want. There are no limitations, except for the fact that they have to represent a specific genre that you like. There are no limits on what the genre can be. It is totally up to you. We will each draft 4 characters, and whoever drafts the coolest, best team wins. And who determines who wins? The audience. I have dice. Go ahead.
To clarify, so the teams have got 4 characters in, or we're putting a team together and we're all contributing 4 characters?
Each of us will have to individually draft a team of 4 characters.
Okay.
I'm going to roll my dice to determine the order, and then we will begin picking our characters. So I'm going to roll first for Mr. Gary Frank.
Okay.
So here we go. Hopefully it's a good roll. That is a 4, so not the best. All right. Now I will roll for Mr. Geoff Johns. That is a 10. That's pretty good. Tyler, That's a 2. Geez, Snake
Oh,
Eyes.
Yeah, that tracks
Dang.
for everything. Yep.
Marco,
Give it to me.
that's a 4.
Oh.
Myself, that is a 7. And Kale, that is a 5. So now I have to roll for Marco and Gary to see who will go first between you
You
two.
can take it.
That's a 7 for Gary. And for Marco, that is a 5.
Well,
So
there
the
you go.
order will be Jeff, it's hilarious. Myself, Gary, Marco, Kale, Tyler, I believe. All right.
So do you have genres that you've got listed already, or anything?
Anything you want. Just
so
say the
so
genre, I guess, when you pick the
a team of
character.
a team of 4 characters.
Yep.
Well, science fiction. I'll take Ripley from Aliens.
That's a good pick.
From Supernatural.
Well, so then someone else goes, and then your turn comes around again.
Okay, got it.
The snake draft style.
So now
So
we're gonna have to do sci-fi.
sorry?
Does everyone have to do science fiction now, or
No, we can all choose our individual ones. I will go with. Ooh, this is so hard. I'm gonna go with. You know what? I'm gonna go with War, and I'm gonna choose Junkyard Joe.
Cool.
I thought they're gonna choose Garth Ennis. Okay.
No. All right. So now Gary.
Okay, my head honcho is gonna be George Smiley from the spy thrillers, the John le Carre.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
a deep cut.
I'm gonna do westerns, and I'm gonna do Zorro.
Okay. Kale.
My turn. I also am going to do westerns. I'm going to do Wyatt Earp.
Okay. Interesting. Tyler, you go twice.
Okay, I'm gonna go with a little bit of a noir here. I'm gonna pick Parker. And then I'm gonna go with. I guess I'll do a sci-fi one, and I'm gonna pick Worf from Star Trek.
Is it my
So
turn?
so then it goes from the bottom up, and you'll go
Okay, got it.
twice, Jeff, when your time comes around. So
Okay, got it.
Kale.
yeah.
I'll do my sci-fi. I will do John Carter of Mars.
What?
Nice. Good.
You might lose.
I'm also gonna do sci-fi, but Adam Strange.
Nice. You're up now, Gary.
Didn't you? Okay, I'm gonna add some muscle with King Kong.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
okay.
That's huge. Shoot, you know what? I'll go down that road as well. And I will go with Godzilla. How about that?
I'm gonna go with. It's my turn, right? For 2.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm gonna
2.
go with Mechazilla and Harry Potter.
Oh,
Great.
So I got Ripley, Mechazilla, and Harry Potter. That's pretty badass.
wow. Okay. And then I go again. I will choose. Whew, can I do? Okay, you guys tell me if this works. Can I do mystery and choose Batman?
Mm, yeah.
I think that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll give it to you.
But
I've
he-
got one
but he-
coming which is equally on the edge, so I'm gonna vote for yeah on that.
I'm gonna vote yeah for you too. Trust me.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So then, yeah, it's your
Gary,
turn,
yeah.
Gary.
Okay, I guess you can never have too many brains, so I'm going Velma from Scooby-Doo. Did I say horror? I guess it's horror, right?
Sure, or
Yeah.
mystery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mystery, yeah.
Mystery, yeah, okay, yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna do, I guess, mystery as well. Kind of noir. The Spirit.
Okay.
My turn.
Yeah.
I also am going to do noir horror, and I'm doing the Spider,
Nice.
the old pulp character.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have my final 2 here, then, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm gonna go with. I don't know why this keeps coming up because I can't stop thinking about Animal Man, but I don't know how to make that a genre.
Humor.
Or superhero, right?
Yeah, yeah. that
Yeah.
works.
Sure.
But I'm not
sure.
picking Animal Man. I'm picking Grant Morrison from Animal Man as my pick.
Meta.
I'm gonna go meta superhero there. So I'm gonna pick Grant Morrison, and then I'm also going to pick. I guess I'll do. Let's do Western. Jonah Hex.
It's a good one. That is a good one.
Tails last one.
My last one, I mostly, it's gonna be a terrible pick, but it's gonna be a romance pick, and I just want everyone to know how well read I am. Elizabeth Bennet from Jane Austen.
How's that
All
degree
right.
feel, Cal? Good.
Tremendous.
You know what? I'm also going literature. I was gonna do Frankenstein's monster for horror, so
Okay. That's good. You're up now, Gary. Your last pick.
We need something to get us all moving around, so I'm having Captain Nemo so he can cart us around in the Nautilus.
Nice.
adventure. Yes.
I will for my last pick. I'm going to go horror, and I'm going to choose Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Very good.
My last pick,
Yeah.
I choose the Ghost of Christmas Present. My last choice.
Okay.
Festive, right? Right. That's the theme there.
Yeah, that's the theme. Get back to the festive, but can create great illusions.
I'm
I love
imagining the Muppets Christmas Carol version too.
Yeah, right. Which Muppet was that?
So here is the list. This is the final list of everyone's picks. Geoff Johns got Rhea Ripley from Alien, Mechagodzilla, Harry Potter, and the Ghost of Christmas Present. I got Junkyard Joe, Godzilla, Batman, and Buffy Summers. Gary Frank got George Smiley, King Kong, Velma, and Captain Nemo. Marco drafted Zorro, Adam Strange, The Spirit, and Frankenstein's Monster. Kale drafted Wyatt Earp, John Carter, The Spider, and Elizabeth Bennet. And Tyler drafted Parker, Worf, Grant Morrison somehow, and Jonah Hex. So those are our teams. Chat, let us know who you think won while we say thank you so much to Geoff and Gary for being beyond gracious with your time, for coming on at all. We so appreciate it. Gary, personally, this has been an incredible honor getting to speak with you. I have looked forward to this for many years. So thank you really from the bottom of my heart for joining us today.
Thanks. I've enjoyed it immensely.
I'm so glad to hear that. I really am. For everybody who has enjoyed this conversation, if you are excited about Ghost Machine, that is the correct way to feel, okay? This is something special. This is something that we should all feel privileged to get to witness unfold. And 2024 is going to be the year of Ghost Machine. So get in on the ground floor with Ghost Machine #1. Final order cutoff is this Monday, December 18th. You want to go to your LCS. You want to ring them up. Let them know that you want to be a part of this, that it matters to you, it's special to you, and you want this. Also, don't forget that Geiger Ground Zero #2 drops this Wednesday. So you can pick that up while you're there. You might as well pick up the trade for Geiger, pick up the trade for Junkyard Joe. Get yourself ready for this new wave. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be so much fun. These creators have not disappointed us yet. So we trust them, and we should. Before we cut out, is there anything you guys want to leave the audience with? Any kind of message?
Just from my part, just thanks for supporting us so far. Hope we've got more stuff that you're going to enjoy in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'd like to say thanks too. Thanks to you guys for having me back on and Gary on, and always being so fun to talk to, and loving comics. But everybody out there, thanks for listening, and I hope you check out Ghost Machine 1.
The chat says that Gary won the draft. So
Yep.
Well,
there you go.
Also check out for more information, you can go to Ghost Machine Pro .com, or Ghost Machine Pro on Instagram, Ghost Machine Pro on Facebook, on YouTube. But we're really active on Instagram. I think all the creators we're there. We're talking all the time now, and sharing stuff there. So you can find us at Ghost Machine Pro.
And the YouTube channel, for what it's worth, for Ghost Machine has an awesome promo video, a little trailer that they put together, which is actually really, really cool. So I encourage you guys to check that out as well. We will be following Ghost Machine all on Pals Pulls. You will be able to hear our thoughts on every issue that drops of anything that they do. We're very excited. Thank you both so much for joining us. We are going to be back. We're going to say goodbye to Gary and Geoff, and then we will be back with you all to wrap up. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That was fucking crazy. That was such an incredible experience. I mean, every time we get to interview Geoff, it's always, special and fun, and there's a certain energy about it when he's around. But being able to have Gary on today just took everything to another level. I couldn't be more excited for what they're doing.
We didn't learn about that until yesterday, so
Yeah.
we were like, "Oh,
Right.
what?"
Like we had requested Gary a couple of months ago or whatever it was, but we didn't know that we were going to be able to get him. So when I was teasing, like, we'll have a special guest possibly, we weren't fully sure we would get Gary, or if it wasn't going to be Gary, then it might be someone else. But we got the confirmation last night, and just like that took my excitement level from 10 to 20.
Yep.
Broke your
Super
scale.
excited.
The thing that got me excited was the Barney story coming to Geiger.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you guys read it. I bet you Sean and Kale have. But it was Adventure Comics, Geoff Johns' run with Francis Manipul, Connor Kent vehicle.
Yeah.
There is a crypto-centric issue in that run that is one of my favorite issues of all time.
Well, that's fun. I was thinking of the Lucky the Pizza Dog Hawkeye
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, or even Marvel Unleashed. So I'm a big fan of dog issues. So
Chat, I want to say to you guys, you have been phenomenal. I appreciate the fact that you showed up for this in droves. You got us to our light goal. Really appreciate you. The questions and comments have been great. I do apologize for the fact that we couldn't get to everything. It's just so hard, like, you ask a question, you get a 5-minute answer, that adds up. And we want to hear from them, right? Like, we want to hear their thoughts. We want to hear what they have to say. So, we did what we could.
There's a reason Geoff Johns is such a good podcast guest.
Right. Absolutely. But we do this for you guys in a lot of ways too. Like, we want you to be able to have your voice heard, and we hope that you enjoy the effort that we put in to make these kinds of things possible, because it's not always easy. It's not always as easy as just showing up and doing the show and having a blast. But these moments, right, make everything else worthwhile. It's just so much fucking fun. I'm not trying to cry about it. Like, I just got to speak to Gary Frank. I'm on cloud nine.
Yeah.
Kale's back.
Let's go.
What's up, hot dogs?
Keep back at a good time, huh?
Well, listen. Geoff comes calling. I come I don't normally have a filter on. I'm crammed into my office. The room is an absolute sty. I'm not even like under the desk. But I was like, listen, Geoff's here. Like, what am I gonna do?
You podcasting side saddle right now?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
If Gary wasn't going to come, if we didn't have another guest and it was just going to be Geoff, then I was going to say that the special guest was Kale.
Welcome, Kale.
Wouldn't that be a reveal? Maybe we should pull that off. Maybe how he was talking about like, the dream is to be a part of Ghost Machine. When that happens for me, right? That's what we should do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Of course. Shit.
Hey, Christian in the chat, send it through those hot dogs.
Hey, love a hot dog,
man. And just being able to access Gary and his mind and the way he thought about stuff, man, I love that kind of thing. Getting to talk to an artist and just have him explain his process, or just the way he's like, this is a visual landscape. What?
And like, I don't suspect Gary watched our previous interviews with Geoff, but a lot of the answers that he gave to some questions are similar to what Geoff's talked about previously on the show.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see almost that independently. It's almost like when twins can have, what's it called when twins can hear each other's thoughts? Telepathy? Twin telepathy? It's almost like creator telepathy in a way, because they've worked together so many times. It's second nature to them.
Yeah, it's like in a good husband and wife relationship, when the kid asks mom something, they can't go to dad and be like, oh well, mom said, and dad's like, no, I know what your mom said.
Way to trigger Marco and I, but it's fine.
Did she say that?
We don't actually have like a whole rest of the show plan. We just want to chit chat. If you guys want to hang out for a few minutes, we can answer listener comments and things like that.
I did want to bring up one thing, Sean.
Go for it.
Alex Sanchez gave us a super chat earlier in the show. Appreciate it. He said, "Why isn't James Robinson part of Ghost Machine?" I'm a big James Robinson fan. I also hope that happens. But again, we can't really ask questions that obviously we won't get a definitive answer to.
Yeah, so that was the only reason why I skipped over the question. I'm sorry. I know you were a super chatter. Really, really appreciate it. We asked that question. We already know what the answer is going to be, and it's not going to be satisfying for you. So, and we really do have such limited time. Like, we went over the initial time, and like they're so good about it, right? But we do want to respect them, and we wanted to make sure we did the draft because it's so much fun. Really great episode, guys. Thank you, Pete. Hope you appreciated the shout out that you got. You got a lot of play there, buddy. Shit, we almost had your nickname and shout out created by Geoff and Gary. I think if time had allowed it, they would have, that would have happened.
Strategic Patreon sign up.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, eight good, absolutely, with all those things. He's always so good about that. Very, very kind to just, hey, this thing's cool. I think you guys might like it, and we're like, yeah, you know what? We are gonna like that. That looks cool.
And you know what? It is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Sanji says, "Thank you, Geoff and Gary. Awesome and insightful guests. Wish they could have expanded on some answers." Yeah, and that is the only unfortunate part. There's 4 of us, 2 of them. I'm sure. I mean, look, I'm sure that all of us have questions we wish we could have gotten to.
But we don't got 5 hours, so.
I do. They don't. And by they, I mean Geoff and Garrett.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did our best. They did their best. They gave such expansive answers most of the time.
100%.
Yeah. Thanks for the early Christmas present. You know what, Atomic Hound? You're very welcome. And I feel like Christmas came early this year for us with this interview. It really, really, really hit me hard. I had such a blast. Really appreciate all the kind words from you guys.
One thing I really want to see is I need some Rook Exodus action figures. Those costumes are so freaking cool.
So good.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
Shout out to Marco's Minions for getting us over the
Not
line.
doesn't not a thing.
This bullshit.
I'm pretty sure it was at 38, and then I asked for the Minions, and then suddenly it hit 40. I don't know, man. There's some sort of correlation there.
Dude, there are no fucking minions. I asked people to crush the likes goal, and the likes went up. Kel, do you know about this minion horse shit?
I don't, and I have to say I don't like it on its face.
And that what you just said is why we need you, because you need to put this fucker in his place. There are no minions of Marco.
They exist
Well,
in the
I think the problem is there are minions of Marco, and they need crushed.
Who are these people? I haven't seen these people.
So what would they
Deviants.
be? So we have Marco's minions allegedly. We have Kale's cult. Sean's saviors. Sean's.
I don't know.
That's alliteration
It's
for
falling
S.
apart.
Tyler's
Sean's sidekicks.
There we go.
There it is.
Tyler's taints. I don't know why it's the only T word that I can think of.
Team? Like,
Oh,
what?
no.
It's right there.
Team Tyler.
I don't have a
Team
writing
Tyler.
degree or anything. It's fine.
Jesus. Oh my goodness.
I mean, the Rook Exodus helmet thing can become a new Green Lantern core spectrum. I'm a swine at the moment. Oh, sick.
Word.
I mean, you said that, not me.
I mean, they're putting together something that is that cool that you know there will be a time when people go, oh, what choose your animal. What animal helmet would you want to have? And that'll represent your identity, just like people do with the freaking the lantern rings, right?
Yep.
It's cool.
Do you always have that available?
It's just literally it happens to
It's
be
one
on
of
my
your
desk.
Yeah, it's your fidget spinner.
One of them.
Yeah.
Let's hear it. What would your helmets be?
Oh, I know mine right off the bat.
Are you asking of the ones we saw or like in general?
In general, because we don't know anything about it yet.
Right. An owl helm.
Get those
I can
Hooters
see
out.
that.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
Absolutely.
Mine would be a platypus.
Yours would be a big foot.
Takes foot.
Marco, we did a similar thing on Pals Polls, by the way. Marco
That's
and
a
I
Velociraptor.
we were
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Let me just explain this. We were talking about Titans Beast World, and Marco asks me, what animal do you think you would transform into if this shit really went down? So I said, owl. So I said to Marco, what animal would you transform into? This guy, this individual goes, oh yeah, I'd be an alligator, which has absolutely nothing the fuck to do with Marco at all, okay? I don't know why he threw that out there. Then he goes to Velociraptor, which is not an animal that exists on Earth anymore, okay? And then he finally gives a genuine answer, which Tyler, you'll appreciate. He says, octopus.
Octopus. Tentacle gang.
Gang, gang.
Gang, gang.
Now, Marco
I
would
don't
be a
know.
Goki. That's what he would be.
Oh, shit. Sean Sycophants. That's what Robotters put in the chat.
Sean Sickos.
Ooh.
I don't no. I don't co-sign that. I don't have sickos. I don't have sycophants, okay? I don't have minions like Marco. I've got people that, enjoy what we do. I also want to throw this out there. Those of you who support us, those of you who join the chat every week, those of you who are supporters on Patreon, channel members, really, really, really thank you so much, because we get to do really cool stuff, and a lot of it is because of you guys. It's because of the consistent support, the engagement. We literally would not know Geoff if it wasn't for the fact that Brian Cunningham, the editor on Geiger, likes our show. He happens to have seen it, right? And enjoys what we do. And the reason he was able to see it is because of your support. And that's going back what now? 2 years?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Before a lot of you were even here. So you never know what you do that affects other people, okay? That brings other people into the fold. Just those likes, just the comments, forget anything financial, right? That helps us live. But just the likes, the comments, the shares, the retweets, all that stuff puts us in front of people like Brian Cunningham, who put Geoff Johns in our path, which then puts Ghost Machine in our path. I can't even talk about the level of collaboration. But it's because of you. So really deeply thank you. Consider supporting us in all the aforementioned ways. If you really love what we do, if you feel like we're cooking right now, we've had a hot year, we would love for you to show that by joining the Patreon, becoming a channel member. And if that is not something that you can do, we still love you. We still thank you. You guys are the realest fans out there. Thank you so much. A couple more comments. Sean Shorties. No. No,
Nope.
please no. I have a girlfriend. I don't have shorties.
He has one tolly, and that's listen.
What Talian?
Yep.
That's the most Caucasian thing. Thank you for bringing back the caucasity to the show, Cal. I appreciate it.
Listen,
It's been absent.
there was a diversity hole that needed filled. Could have phrased that better.
That was perfect.
No,
actually.
nope. That fits.
Welcome back.
Roboter says you put comic discussion and creators in front of us, so thank you, Comics Pals. Thank you for tuning in for these, because we wouldn't bring them in if it weren't for you guys and being able to have dialogue and discussions. And you know what? Post show as well, right? Like we're gonna go into Discord. People are gonna catch up, and that conversation is gonna continue to flow, and we love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Atomic Hound says, pals heating up like a microwave. Thank you. And my goodness, Hound, you talk about a supporter. You talk about a road warrior for us. Really, really thank you so much.
Atomic Hound actually sounds like a Geiger character, now that I think about it.
For real.
Oh yeah.
It sounds like what his dog is.
The
Barney.
Nuclear Knight and Atomic Hound. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Love that name, man. Nuclear Knight. Gotta get it in.
Cool as shit. Yeah. All right. We're going to cut out. Thank you so much. We appreciate everybody that joined us today. We appreciate everybody who's going to see this, hear this after the fact. You guys are great. If you like this stuff, support us however you can. Even just a like on the video, all that stuff's huge. Our normal hour, if you don't watch our show, don't know us, Saturday, 10:15 a.m. Eastern for this show. We have creator guests like the ones we just had. Hard-hitting conversations about the industry at large, and fun shit like the draft. There's just a lot of stuff going on here. 6 p.m. on Thursdays for Pals Pulls. That's where we review comics. If you want to hear our thoughts about Ghost Machine #1, Geiger Ground Zero #2, which is dropping this Wednesday, that's the place to do that. Patreon.com/theComicsPals. I'll shout it out one more time. If you want to nickname it a shout out like the one that everybody else got earlier, that's the place to get that happening. And then, of course, you can become a channel member. You get a green name in the chat. You get a snazzy, our logo next to your name. You get emojis. You get early access to new videos that we've been putting out that are dropping on our YouTube channel. So, we love you guys. We love to give back what you give to us tenfold. So if you support us, we're going to go hard for you.
One thing too, Tuesday, join us here for book club.
Yes, we will be talking about The Authority. Tyler won the book club poll this month, so we'll be talking about The Authority. That should be good.
Yeah, with
Second
a Ghost
live book
Machine
club.
creator on it, with Brian Hitch on art.
Hey, there it is.
I haven't read it yet.
Exclusive.
Dude, I think you'll really like it, Sean. I think you're a Warren Ellis guy, I think.
Oh yeah, I love Warren Ellis.
Yeah, we have similar tastes when it comes to that stuff, so I think you'll like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought it a long time ago. I'm excited to dive in.
Oh, I'm helping you get through a stack?
Yes,
That's
literally.
Yeah, there we
better.
go.
Dude, that's Pals pull. Or I'm sorry. The book club does. That's what it does for me. Like I own a majority of this fucking shit. I just haven't read it yet. So annoying.
Gotta get to it.
Yeah. Amin Perez says, I can see the Comics Pals exploding even harder in 2024. Marco's going to explode even harder later tonight.
Whoa.
Hey, big pause.
Whoa.
Ayo. Ayo.
No, thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. You're one of the realists. Another double dipper. We've got so many double dippers. I see you, Christian. I see you. You guys are great. Look, thank you so much. Really have nothing in me more right now but gratitude. Really appreciate you. We will see you on Tuesday for the book club, the Authority Book Club, and then, of course, Thursday for Pals Pulls, and then right back here next Saturday for the main show. Love you guys. Thank you. We are out. See you next time.
See you next week.